Good Lord. Oh my gosh.
I like fighting number two.
I know.
We have to slam it.
That's what I thought.
We're going to be a country no more. I actually think it will not be a country no more.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Is mic on? The mic's on. The camera's on. This is rolling. That's happening. This is the chat is here. Whew. All right. That was a lot. See, as I was getting ready, I got my headphones in. I'm setting stuff up, and I hear it, and I can't tell if it's a feedback issue or something. And then I look down, and Chip is at my feet, and he's just doing the serpentine, the cat thing that goes, "I love you. I want to trip you and kill you. I wish I could do this near a flight of stairs so you could die. And so I had to remove him from the space, which takes it's a process. And because for some people it might be easy, just pick him up and move him. But for me, it's a whole like cuddling situation. And I roll him up like this, and I kiss his belly, and then I go, "What you doing?" and have a conversation with my cat. That is, if I was less of a man, it'd be embarrassing, but it's not. And then I put him outside, and then I have to roll myself again. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks, Megaworldwide. Please like and subscribe and support the show by being a Patreon subscriber. Patreon.com/HalSparks. If you're on Twitch, please subscribe. You can follow, but subscribing is better. It helps us out. We need to get our subscriber numbers up everywhere. So wherever you do it, I know I've got a shotgun approach. I'm spreading the buckshot out over, maybe there's an argument for a sniper-like business model, but I don't buy it. Point is the message, not me. And so help me out. And just subscribe, hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below if you don't like commenting below. So let's go. Right. Let's get some numbers on the board. Right, chat room? By golly, you lovely people. I'm happy to be in the position that I'm in.
I like fighting number two.
That's right. I don't have anything against it, really. We're all, to some degree, fighting number two, aren't we? I think so. Woo, rip Portland. So,
I think people saw that loud and clear.
Yes, they did. So today, obviously, kids, as I mentioned earlier, a couple of housekeeping notes. One, tomorrow, no show because I have the jam, and it's going to be very exciting because it's the Hollywood Rocks Jam, and we're getting a bunch of celebrities to come out and help us raise money for the Entertainers Fund because the strike is affecting the people who are just getting started, or the people who, you're kind of like blue collar hump along actors, and so I managed to talk everybody at the jam into doing this. Adam's been great, and anyways. So we're doing that tomorrow. So I will be sound checking like a fool, and it'll be a good time. So hopefully we will have plenty of clips to post and lots of pictures and whatnot. So follow me on my Instagram channel and the other things. I will not, more than likely, be posting the videos on Twitter. I'm going to try and start shuffling stuff over to threads and that kind of stuff. We'll see. But welcome to the show. Glad you could be here. Hello. And we got a gem. We got a gem for you. Now, some of this might be infuriatingly stupid, and so I've got different things to break it up. But ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Maria Bartiromo. Just going with the uplighting. And I think, never be afraid to call Bella Lugosi's grandkids lighting director's grandkid and ask them, how do you do it? What could make it look like I'm staring into the briefcase from Pulp Fiction, but with just like a cafeteria bulb in there? If that's what was in the briefcase, was just a cafeteria bulb, that'd be good, or something like. I don't know. Is it Halloween already? I lose track. I don't know about you guys. Okay, so this is there are a couple of these things. I have to which one's the beginning? Because this is such a mess. He's such a mess. One, two. Okay, so this is. Let me see if I can, because there's four parts of this craziness. That's two. That's maybe three. Maybe is this it? Can't tell. maybe I missed it. I didn't miss it, did I? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so nope. Okay, that's the same one. It's just a different picture because I hit play. I see. Gotcha. All right, good. This is incompetent. Trump reveals cabinet appointment he regrets. And now I know what you're thinking immediately. Hashtag the best people. Because you're a dick. That's why. Just like me. Every time he brings this up, you're like, I thought you ran on the hashtag the best people, stupid. All right, but let's see. Here we go. Maria Bartiromo,
45th president of the United States, when he told me he has not yet made.
Yeah, okay. He doesn't know whose cabinet people are. Okay, here we go. Also, kudos to Maria for being out of grabbing range. I think that's a smart move. I do think it's... if I were a female of the species, I would wear a skirt that goes over the knee if I was sitting in that position with him because his weird lean, it just looked like he's... Never mind.
Tom, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Well, thank you very much.
For not making me stand. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I want to begin with the state of play of this election, with now the election over a year away and the first GOP.
Over a year away. Way to make it sound close.
Primary debate a month or so away. Will you be on that stage? Are you participating in the upcoming debate?
Well, you know, it's a quite an easy question normally. Ronald Reagan didn't do it, and a lot of other people didn't do it.
A lot of other people didn't do it. He didn't do it with the one he did where he did the other ones, but he didn't do it anymore. He had a couple of great lines with the ones he did do, but the ones he didn't do them. So I'm like him, but better because I'm not doing any of them.
You have a big lead, you don't do it.
Yeah, you don't do it. You don't do it. You lost last time. Does that mean you have to?
And we have a lead of 50 and 60 points in some cases, and some of these people are at 0.
No, you have 50 or 60 points, but you don't have a lead of 50 or 60 points. And notice how, by the way, apparently a liberal who used to work at Pop-Up Video now works on the Chiron. They fired that guy who was like would-be dictator, blah, blah, blah. Remember that dude got fired? And whoever they put in charge is like, fuck this guy. Trump leads DeSantis by 34%. Clearly not 50 or 60%. So there you go.
Ron DeSanctis, as I call him, or DeSanctimonious.
Either one. DeSanctis. Call him DeSanka, you know what I mean? Because he's decaf and it's boring and stuff. I don't want to help this guy.
Is down to, he's in the teens now, and I'm at 50 and 60 and 65, and even I saw one today at 70. And so you're leading people.
I think that was your age range. Yeah.
People by 50 and 60 points, and you say, why would you be doing a debate? It's actually not fair. Why would you let somebody that's at 0 or at 1 or 2 or 3, be popping you with questions?
Well, I mean, do you see?
You mean, well, real quick. First of all, they're not popping you with questions. The moderator is, arguably, and sometimes they have people in the stands that do. And the American people are at 0. I'm just saying, in terms of, none of them are going to win. So, this doesn't, you don't want to, all right. And here's the thing. Biden not doing it because he's busy presidenting against people who are, basically taking that 30% shave is a waste of fucking time. But Trump is up against half the field. Half the field. He's got 50%, and the other people have 50%, and then a bunch of other people are like, if he drops out, bing, they go right to the top. So
any risk that if you don't show up, Ron DeSantis has a good night and it cuts into your lead?
Or somebody else has a good night and cuts into his lead.
He doesn't have a lead. He's second place.
I like fighting number 2.
Well, then go fight number 2, you big wuss. Somebody else has a good night and cuts into his lead. And gives you a better run for your money, takes away your primary, rival and all your arguments. Dude has no nicknames for anybody else except Chris Christie, who's only running to give him the finger.
Because that's what's happening. He's going down, and a couple of them are going up. I think Vivek has done a very good job, frankly. I think some others have done a good job. So I haven't really made up my mind.
Is there anyone on that stage you see as potential running mate, as your VP?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I think you have some.
I mean, really, what are they doing? They're just running to be running mate. This is my new version of The Apprentice. This is Vice Apprentice. is what I call it, and it's going to be on NBC Never.
Good people on the stage, actually. I think you have some very talented people. I've been impressed by some of them. Some of them I'm very friendly with, actually. A number of them called me up, not to ask for permission, but sort of to ask for permission.
Yeah, and then they did it anyways after you told them no.
To say they'd like to do it. A number of the people up there, I'm not going to embarrass them by saying who, but
because they'll all go, I didn't fucking call him and ask permission. The fuck are you talking about? I'm not running for president after I kissed somebody's goddamn ring.
No, I think you have good people. I think you have good potential cabinet members too, actually.
Who was that?
Well, I don't want to mention that. I think.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, look at the last people I put in the cabinet, and just I flip coins. I really don't. You know, what's a cabinet again? I don't know.
I can't.
Do you see yourself perhaps with the Senator Tim Scott?
I think he's a very good guy. We did opportunity zones together. It's never been talked about. It's one of the most successful economic development things ever done in this country.
It's honest to God, they just renamed shit that already existed.
And Tim is very good. I mean, I could see Tim doing something.
Enterprise zones became opportunity zones. And the reason they call them opportunity zones is because they wanted, a bunch of right-wingers thought that it sounded like they were giving away free money to black people. So they're like, well, we'll give you the opportunity to succeed, but we're not going to carry you across the finish line because we believe in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. And we want to make that clear. So they renamed enterprise zones opportunity zones. Jesus fucking Christ.
With the administration, but he's in right now campaigning, and I'm sure Tim and everybody else would say, I'm only interested in one. But Tim's a talented guy, and you have other very talented people.
Do you have a plan to get independents and suburban women to...
No. No, he does not. And she looks genuinely concerned. Now, they cut the shit out of this interview, by the way. It jumps all over the fucking place. This is the only version I think CSL did a great job finding, their post of it, so it's clean. But there's a choppier version online, and it's fucking brutal because they edited it even further, it looks like.
Believe that your policies will make their lives better.
It's called safety. It's called the border. It's called a strong military. It's called low taxes and low interest rates so you can buy a home. It's called keeping low-income housing.
It's the economy, stupid. But I can't say that because that was, Clinton did that or whatever.
Housing out of the neighborhood of somebody that's very proud of their house in Westchester, New York.
It's called NIMBY. I'm running on NIMBY. That's what it is. It's that's his platform. I'm running on a NIMBY platform, not in my backyard. Everybody's just like, fuck those people. That's my people. Anybody who says fuck those people is my people.
And they don't want to see their house value crash, which I did previously.
You crashed their house value? That was nice of you. Jesus Christ, what'd you do? Move in next door? What a dick.
But it's really about safety, and it is about low taxes, and it's about not going into ridiculous wars. You would have never had the war with Ukraine and Russia had I been involved. You would.
Yeah, they would have lost in a matter of hours. They wouldn't have had a chance. There wouldn't have been a war because a war is two countries fighting, as Bill Hicks once said, and the Ukrainians would not have had the ability to fight back had it been you. It wouldn't have been a war. It would have been a fucking steamroll.
I've never had this talk with China going into Taiwan. Just wouldn't have happened.
Okay, first of all, yes, that's been the fucking conversation for a decade.
And it didn't happen.
Because they knew you weren't going to defend Taiwan. It didn't have to happen. They just don't feel like, look, we already have people on the shore. We already have, we have Marines there training Taiwanese soldiers. The Chinese know that there's no way they could do an attack in the last, 8 years anyways, where they wouldn't have the danger of killing an American soldier in the process. So they have to do this whole big windup to try and get who's ever president to pull everybody out of the danger zone right before the attack happens. And it's not going to. We're not gonna move our trainers out of there. Oh, sorry, you wanted to kill these people? I was busy teaching them how to defend themselves, but fuck it. Just have at it. Yeah. The women and children are over there, by the way. They're over in the hillside. So, do you want a map or get the fuck out of here?
Actually, even the Democrats say, well, whatever you want to say about him, it wouldn't have happened.
Do you believe Joe
You know what wouldn't have happened? Us getting out of Afghanistan. Period.
Biden will be the Democrat candidate in 2024?
I guess so. I mean, look, I watch him and I listen to him, and you sort of hold your breath and you say, is he going to finish the sentence?
I know.
Free health care for illegal. Look.
I know. It's like sometimes you don't even know if he knows what he's saying.
Christopher Columbus, Christopher, huh?
But, Biden's nowhere near as good with the retail politics as Trump is.
Michigan gave us Motown, gave us the Mustang.
So, I don't know what, I guess.
We are going to be a country no more. I actually think it will be a country no more.
Right. Yeah. So I'm worried about Biden's ability to articulate a sentence. A man with a lifelong stutter who's managed to become president. What was your excuse, Mr. Best Words?
Who wants people coming in from foreign countries? I don't know. I guess he is. He's look. They have a Democrat machine. They have a lot of votes that are.
He's talking about me, by the way. I'm Hal Sparks. I'm the Democratic machine. How you doing? I literally, I should just have like the Democratic machine. Like, come on now.
Automatic to a Democrat, even though they shouldn't be. Normally you'd say they have the union votes, but I think I have a lot of union votes too. I get.
Yeah, you don't.
Tremendous.
You get the business vote in right to work states.
Our industry, I'm far better than the Democrats. And I said to everybody, you're losing your industry. It's all moving to Mexico and to China. And I think
and I said that the whole time while I was president, where it continued to move to Mexico and China, mostly China.
Workers vote for me. I think they'll vote for me much more than the union leaders who are indoctrinated into the Democrat Party. But no, I think.
By the way, does anybody know how you get indoctrinated into the Democrat Party? It's Democratic Party, but maybe it's different rules for maybe whatever that Democrat Party he's talking about is. Does anybody know whatever? And does it involve some sort of thing where you have to walk with a Nutter Butter on the end of your nose and not eat it for like an hour? And I don't know if I could pass that.
I think that Biden will probably be the candidate if he can make it.
Well, the Democrats don't want to do debates. I know Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr. want to debate. What do you think about that?
Well, I understand why he doesn't want to do it. I mean, I truly understand why he doesn't want to do it. But they are, there's a big difference. Although, in the case of RFK, I've seen polls where he's at 20%. That's not bad.
Oh, yeah.
But I understand why he doesn't want to do that. Look, when you're running for office and you have, in his case, let's say he has a 30 or 40 point lead, why would he do it?
Right. Yes. He has, and by the way, he has a bigger lead than that. That's Trump's lead. Trump has a 30 or 40 point lead. Biden has a 70-point lead.
Now, people are going to say, well, he can't do it. I actually think he can't do it, if you want to know the truth. I don't think he's capable of doing it. But why would he do it? Especially because of that. Why would he do it? If he's...
I think this is actually him answering why he won't do the debates. Are you that little boy? No way! I used to beat him up too. I used to go, why are you so fat? Why are you so fat? And I beat him up. Like, beat the shit out of him.
Got a 30 or 40 point lead, which is what he's got. I mean, I don't think RFK expects that he's going to be debating. He's a very smart guy, by the way. I don't think he expects to be debating Biden.
Great. Well, will you debate him then? How about that? How about you? Biden shouldn't have to show up for those. How about you don't want to debate the people on your side that you're running against? Why not? How about you debate RFK and Marianne Williamson? I mean, is that not must-see TV? Jesus Christ, I should be running NBC at this point. That was one crazy summer. Well done, Mozart. Come on. How would that not be tonight? Joe Biden won't debate Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr., and Trump will not debate Chris Christie and Ada Hutchinson and Tim Scott and Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and Shemp. I don't know, whoever else, right? So why not just do those? I would totally, yes, I would buy tickets too. chat room. I'd be there. I'd camp out for days.
You've spent time with him, RFK. Tell me about
I
him.
have.
Is he a
Uh-huh.
formidable competitor?
He's a very smart person, yeah. I know a lot of the members of that family, and, you know, he's a very smart guy. And
Uh-huh. He's a very smart guy. First of all, he hung out with you. So I would argue strike one. Secondly, there's something that pops up every so often with Trump, which is his belief in genetic superiority. He thinks because he had an uncle that went to MIT or something that he's automatically smart. And he thinks the same thing because the Kennedys, like, because John Kennedy had charisma and intelligence and Robert F. Kennedy was a good person and fought very hard, that the rest of the family just magically has that shit. It's his belief in midichlorians. It's fucking gross.
he's hit a little bit of a nerve. I think he really has. And
Uh-huh. Yes, he's hit a bit of a nerve.
a lot of Democrats,
He's got a lot of nerve. How about that?
I know one of them
He's hit a lot of nerve. He's hit the nerve of Jews and Chinese people lately.
vote for him. But again, if he's at 20% and if Biden has a big lead, number one, Biden can't debate him because he's not capable. And number two, why would he debate him? For that reason, but also, why would he debate him if he's probably got it locked up? I don't see RFK Jr., I don't see him getting the nomination under any circumstances.
If there's anything that you could look back on in 16 that you
Oh boy. Oh dear.
think maybe you want to do differently this time.
Yeah, what would you do differently this time? I mean, you had the best people, you had the best words. Yeah, you did the biggest stuff that Mitch McConnell put in front of you that you could sign. You had the biggest signature on stuff that other people drafted for you. What else would, I mean, nothing.
Around.
Well, the mistakes would be that a lot of people, for instance, say you should have been softer. But I was under siege by people that were very dishonest. If I was soft, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Believe me, I wouldn't have been able to finish out one of the most successful terms as president.
Also, by softer, he means people criticize him for how he was on Twitter and the like. How he was on Twitter didn't affect the legal aspect of what he was up against. Like I don't know, but I'm sure there's some balance to fighting a court case in the press to some degree, but ultimately I would, and I think a lot of you would as well, go with hiring good lawyers and not being guilty in the first place. I think that's the best plan. Second would be make a big stink.
To a point where it was so successful that I'm leading by 50 points right now. You know, I mean, that wouldn't have happened.
Also, why wouldn't you be? You used to be president. The question isn't, why are you leading by 37 points, which is what it really is. And that can dwindle instantly. The question is why you even have to have a primary at all. You were already fucking president.
The mistake would be people. I mean, I wouldn't have put a guy like Bill Barr in. He was weak and pathetic. I wouldn't have put Jeff Sessions in.
Okay, so you know nothing about the Department of Justice, right? So your problem was you couldn't find a sycophanty enough.
There are some people that I wouldn't have put in. You know, most people were good.
Yeah, most of them. Well, not him, obviously. And John Kelly did. Fuck that guy. And
but I had some people. We had Esper. I didn't like him. He was incompetent, I thought. We had other people.
Why does he jump on Esper? By the way, probably because Esper didn't want to support the insurrection.
I didn't like.
Why did you put them in the job then?
That's a good question. Because he's a fuckhead. That's why. Because he knows shit about the job. And he didn't care. He didn't care about the outcome. He was looking for loyalists. He was playing. It was Kim Jong-un cosplay,
Because every president, you put somebody in, you think they're good. But one thing.
Every president. No, you have literally the record for like two of the shortest serving people in history. And you have attacked everyone except Wilbur Ross. And I think that's largely because you're counting on Bank of Cyprus money laundering.
That has happened, and I find it very interesting, and this is the way life goes. I put people in. I was there 17 times in Washington, D.C.
Oh, this shit again. See, never. Yes, I was there 17 times and I never stayed the night. Whatever. Hey, asshole, that just makes it look like you rolled in to make swampy deals and fucked off. If you stayed the night, I think you at least gave a shit and were a tourist and wanted to see the sights and experience the city. It sounds like you flew in to have somebody like give you a tax break and then you fucked off. Maybe if you'd stayed the night, it wouldn't seem as hinky.
My whole life. Okay? I never stayed overnight. The press actually reported 17. I don't know if it's right, but it's probably pretty right. I never stayed overnight, ever. And then all of a sudden, I'm the president of the United States. And it's like a different society. I was New York, and, you know, it was a different thing. So I didn't know people. I became president. I'm riding down Pennsylvania Avenue with our first lady. I had 250 motorcycles. I had armies. I had everything.
I had little plastic men. I had the army men with the plastic parachute on them, and I had the little plane that when you wind up the rubber band, it goes brrrr, and I'll make a poo poo. Good Lord! Can I? Oh, by the way, if I may, let me go back to this real quick. I just want to send some love out to Anita Blake, by the way. The chat room and Anita, I know you're there and you're listening. So hi, and we adore you, and we got your back, and I hope you're wonderful. And I just want to say that. So, and I apologize that you have to hear as much of Trump's voice as you do today. I'm just saying, because it's, yeah, just, yeah. We love you, Anita. So there you go. And be careful with the Hunter Biden laptop. I think you have it this week, right? So be careful with it, because I think it's wired to explode. I don't want to judge, but there you go. Just saying. So, all right, back to our regularly scheduled lunacy.
Everything I said, do you believe it? We're president. Take a look. This is.
Do you believe it? We're president. Who were you talking to? The Son and the Holy Ghost, you dumb fuck? Remember how much shit Hillary Clinton got? Because everybody thought she was president too, right? And she didn't. She was first lady and whatever. She only ran for president after she'd been Secretary of State and a fucking New York senator. But the idea that this asshole is suddenly like, I said to the First Lady, we're president, so congratulations, you weren't elected. They voted for me, but it's basically a vote for you. So you tell me what to do. I mean, just, okay, so you hand me a list. Number 1, fuck Christmas. What's that? Okay. Is Christmas one of my interns? Is she?
Wild, right? But I never was involved in that. And
so you didn't know what to expect.
No.
Yeah, you didn't know. It was all such a blur. Oh my God. When you become Miss Washington, D.C., there's a moment where you're like, it all seems so surreal. And you wake up and the next morning and your breath smells like champagne still, and you've still got the swimsuit on, or parts of it anyways, and the tiara's on your head, and you're like, it's true. It's true. It's fucking president. I'm not impressed because you were caught off guard by the fucking job you were running to get, that you said you were singularly capable of doing.
I didn't know the people. I know.
Who you did? That was part. All right, that's what he ran on. He ran on the fact that he didn't know the people, that he knew the good people in New York and throughout the country that were smarter than the people in. He didn't know the people in D.C. because he didn't need to know the people in D.C. because he was going to call all the brilliant Wall Streeters and shit and get their advice and have a Dave fucking moment. Remember? He ran on the fact that he didn't know anybody. And now he's like, well, the biggest mistake was I didn't know anybody. Fuck you.
I know the people now better than anybody's ever known the people. I know.
Ew.
The good ones, the bad ones, the dumb ones, the smart ones.
You didn't drain the swamp like you said.
I think the loyal ones. You don't know shit. Name one. He literally can't name one person that he would put in his cabinet right now because he's afraid they will John Kelly or Chris Christie him or Rex Tillerson him. You know why? Because they will. If they're qualified to be in a presidential cabinet, he is unqualified to lead them. And he put some people in that were, sycophants and whatnot, or had their own agenda, like Wilbur Ross or Steve Mnuchin. But he put in other people who were there to do the actual job, were aware of what it took, were trying to walk in there like it was a normal fucking presidency, and it absolutely was not. If anyone is qualified to be in someone's cabinet who's president of the United States, Donald Trump has no idea who they are, what they would be doing in the first place, like on a material level, has no idea what their job entails. And so he would have no point of judgment to assess whether they can do it well or not. It's absurd. And this is after he was fucking president. It's stupid in 2016. It's fucking ridiculous. But after he was president for 4 years, he's like, I think I know the loyal ones. I don't give a fuck if they're loyal, stupid. I want them to be loyal to the Constitution. I want them to be loyal to the country. But I don't give a fuck if they're loyal to you. As a matter of fact, a lot of times those are divergent choices.
Said you would. You didn't drain the swamp.
I did. I fired Comey. I fired a lot of people.
I fired a lot of. Well, I had other people fire them. I don't like to fire people. I didn't fire Comey. Somebody else. I told them to do that. I think I fired Comey. Yeah, he was the fucking swamp. He's not the swamp. Okay, goddamn it. Look, when they talk about the swamp, it's just a lazy, puffed up, cartoonish conversation about bureaucracy. They used to say bureaucrats for a long time. You had Democrats and Republicans and bureaucrats, people who were unelected and they work in the different bureaus and they're sitting there enforcing their will on stuff by either moving slow or moving fast, dragging their feet or bum rushing some stuff. And they were a class in and of themselves. And then bureaucrat just sounds boring and kind of 70s. So all of a sudden it's the swamp. He has no idea what anybody in his cabinet did at the top level. The people he actually put in there, which is they're the kings of the swamp, allegedly, because they're unelected and they're appointed by the president himself, and they appoint other people below them. So they dictate who's quote unquote in the fucking swamp. And he has absolutely no standard. None. And firing Comey was just to protect his own ass.
The people I fired. I fired Comey very early. And, there was a question as to whether or not you could.
Legally. Because he was looking into you. This is just a Nixon moment. Fuck it, I am a crook. You know what?
But I fired Comey. If I didn't fire Comey, I don't think I would have been able to serve out my term.
Because he would have, done his job and you'd be indicted? That's not a defense, stupid.
Because that was a plot.
Yeah, it was a plot. Mm-hmm. It was. Speaking of plot, what's buried at Bedminster? Because wasn't Ivana cremated? What's in the plot? What's in the plot? What's in the plot?
And these other guys that are running, they think, oh, well, they're going to go nice and smooth. No, they'll create phony stories on them.
No. Hey, asshat. Nobody ever had to dream this shit up. They just fought based on ideas. Nobody's going after fucking Tim Scott or Chris Christie or Vivek Ramaswamy or Nikki Haley or any of these assholes based on their secret Russian stooges. I wouldn't even call him an agent because I don't give him that much credit. You think that's how they battled fucking Kasich and other people? What are you talking about? This is singularly his problem.
Their own Russia. These people are sick.
No, they won't.
Guys like Adam Schiff, he's a sick person. I mean, he's really a sick. They make things up, and then you have to spend time
golfing. You have to spend time golfing. I understand. It's difficult. You know what I mean? You got to golf. Because, if you don't golf, you lose your mind. You got to slice. Don't be afraid to slice. I won't do it.
Getting out of it. They do it now.
But he may become a senator.
He may become. Isn't that a crazy thing? Well, maybe not. He's running against some people that are much better than him. He's a
Like who?
sick person. He made up a thing on Russia, and Ukraine where he actually talked about my call with President.
Oh, for fuck's sake. He paraphrased what you were saying. He was pointing out that you were using mafia-coded language. It was a great example of what was going on. He didn't lie about the content. He was paraphrasing. He was voicing it in mafia-like language to point out the fact that that's exactly what the fuck you were doing. Good Lord. He still hammers this. I find this amazing.
Zelensky, he didn't know we had the call taped.
You didn't have this call taped, dickhead. You don't even have a full transcript of it. Even this, you released an edited, like, shortened transcript. There's dots in it for a fucking reason. And even still, he was reading from it. He was quoting it directly and then making a point that you were using mafia-coded language and going, Rudy will basically, I don't want any problems. That's all I'm saying. You got a nice house. You got a nice family. Rudy's going to be over at 3 o'clock. He'll tell you the real deal. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what it was.
Fortunately, it was taped. And he made up a speech. He made a speech in Congress about what my call was.
No, he didn't. He paraphrased it, you fucking tool. I just think he's, there's this belief that somehow Trump has this, Goebbels level control of language and people, and that he knows how to propagandize and control people through repeating a lie over and over again. I think the only person it really works on is him. I think he bullshits himself by repeating it. Like he sits in bed going, he made that up. He took it. That's not what I said. I said something else. I said he read that he's quoting me wrong. He's making the dialogue. Like he sits in bed, sweaty, staring at the fucking ceiling.
Where he was actually reading the speech of what I said.
Yeah. And in his remarks saying, basically you have the president saying, it's a nice country you got here. It'd be a shame if somebody was just let Russia attack it.
And then when I released it, I said, we happen to have a tape of that. It was a total lie. I said he ought to be prosecuted for what he did.
Yeah. You know what? Fuck that. Don't prosecute. Tell you what. Go after him for libel. You need the money. He's running for senator of California. I mean, you can't be a senator and not be rich these days. It just costs too much. So you'll be able to kill his Senate candidate. Go after him. Sue him. And then go to court and have them read the statement, play the tape, interview Rudy Giuliani about what he said to Zelensky or what he was going to say to Zelensky when he went over there. And we'll all have a good laugh.
But when you go to Congress, believe it or not, you can say anything you want.
No, you can't.
Don't get prosecuted, and you can't get sued.
That's weird because maybe you should have run for Congress then, because you said some shit while you were president, and literally E. Jean Carroll sued you and won. Fuck. Oh.
And I think it's terrible, but
yes.
This guy's got. I mean, he's very sick people.
He's very sick people. He's very sick people.
I was a private business people.
Is one of the first signs of dementia the inability to tell the difference between singular and plural words?
I was a private business people.
Because he's a sick person is a sentence.
But this guy's got. I mean, he's very sick people. Look.
He's very sick people.
If they would use their evil genius to make America great again, it would be great.
Well, they kind of are. Honestly, we have the lowest inflation in the developed world, and it's coming down even more. We're like, they're not even talking about a recession anymore. That, like, hold on one second. Let me show you something, if I may. So one of the things they made up, they made fun of. Let me blow this up a little so I can show it to you. One of the things they made fun of Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen for was the idea that we're not going to have a recession, we're going to have a soft landing. Last year, remember that? Inflation's transitory, and there's no such thing as a soft landing. It's recession. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can show you real quick. If I can do this, I'll do a comparison. 1 second. Let's see. Okay, so this is just Glenn Beck. Brace for recession 3 months ago. Connecting the inflation dots. Huge inflation hints recession, dollar collapse are coming. 1 year ago. 1 year ago. Is Glenn Beck right about the Great Reset? This is other shit or whatever. And then we go to, where's his, let's see. Brace for recession. We'll see sticky inflation and falling growth in the second half. Profound chilling effect. Treasury Secretary on China's growth. Okay, then we're getting into real news. Yeah. Can't hide from recession 11 months ago. Guys, we can't. Yeah. Can I jump into this for 1 fucking second? He's talking about like the evil genius of what's going on.
Now, Joe Biden, speaking of lies and disinformation and misinformation, Biden held a virtual press conference on Monday. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if that means he was on the computer or he was a virtual being on a computer. Not sure.
That's a joke about him being, not president or having to be replaced digitally.
Monday, he said that in advance of the data that's scheduled to be released on Thursday.
Mm-hmm. This is 11 months ago. This is last fucking year, okay?
I can confirm the economy is not going to go into a recession.
For the record, we have not gone into a recession. For the record, may I? Okay. JP Morgan's Kolanovic sees modestly wider path to soft landing. That means the economy, coming down from its high inflation and a soft landing instead of having to go into a recession to do it. Arian says, soft landing narrative gains steam. Don't fight it. Suddenly everyone is talking soft landing. Upbeat quarterly earnings reports on Friday from three of the largest U.S. banks capped a week in which almost everything rallied in markets. Revenue soared to a record at JP Morgan, boosted by U.S. Federal Reserve rate hikes and the bank's first Republic purchase. Citigroup reaped gains as consumers borrowed more on credit cards. Wells Fargo's net interest income revenue collected from loan payments minus what depositors paid was up 29% from a year earlier. Nobody was supposed to borrow money. Once we hit 3%, remember what Trump said? It's all gone. No one's ever borrowing money again. All three banks beat analyst expectations. Their reports added more oxygen to a rally that has investors increasingly betting on a Goldilocks scenario in which the U.S. avoids a recession as inflation eases swiftly, otherwise known as the soft landing so many thought impossible a short time ago. The market, Deutsche Bank strategist Jim Reed said, has been partying like it's 1999. Happiness at last. This is the PPI, the Producer Price Index, are disinflating by any measure. That's right. And by the way, deflation and disinflation are two different things. Deflation can be rough. Disinflation, not so much. It's just because we were already inflated. So going back down to normal is not deflation. That's another conversation for another time. But for the this is now. This this article's from yesterday. This is Glenn Beck 11 months ago. Fuckhead.
Worried Americans should not be worried that we're in a recession, because we're not going to be in one, in my view. I love that he added, in my view. And the reason why he says, in my view, is because he says, just because you have 2 quarters of contraction does not make it that you're in a recession. Well, okay, technically, sure, 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth is something that they use to determine whether we are in a recession or not. And the people who decide if we're in a recession is the National Bureau of Economic Research. They're the ones that determine whether we're in a recession or not. And they have a whole bunch of metrics. But the two main ones are that we've had 2 quarters of contraction.
Right. But
Now,
No. Negative growth and contraction are not the same thing. And by the way, spiking around COVID, again, a recession is a monetary act, not a reaction to a fucking hurricane. That's another aspect where this dickhead wants to pretend COVID never happened. This is 11 months ago. I got to remind you.
I want to say it isn't always like that.
Mm-hmm. Like in the case you're quoting right now, you fucking chimp.
In the last 10 recessions that we have,
there was not a giant pandemic preceding. I rest my case. That's what we're gonna do now. We're just gonna, so a hurricane comes through and the roof gets blown off, the walls have fallen down, and your argument is going, the construction is shoddy. The house is drafty. I think our energy bills are going to be higher than usual. You watch, because the heat and the cold from the air conditioning unit is going to escape because we have no walls, and therefore our energy bills are going to be higher than normal. And therefore, I blame Commonwealth Edison.
the GOP has contracted 2 quarters in a row.
Well, the GDP hasn't, but the GOP definitely has. Like, they're losing members. Does it count when they kicked Marjorie Taylor Greene out of... That didn't happen until recently.
Oh, no, so it is always like that. Huh. Okay.
Just 10 of the last 10, though, in GDP, yes.
Yeah.
10 of the last 10. Not a big
Not GOP.
deal at all. No trend. I don't see any trend there whatsoever.
Well, guess what, fuckhead? That's because there isn't one. Because these are not related. These circumstances are not related. I've made this analogy before, and it drives me fucking crazy, but let me remind everybody. Look. If you have a doctor, which would be the economist in this, and you have migraines every so often, you're normally okay, but occasionally you have a migraine, and the migraine would be a recession in this analogy. And then he treats this migraine with Excedrin and rest and water. He goes, you're not hydrated enough, you need some caffeine pills and some sleep after the caffeine wears off. And that will help you with your migraine. And that's worked the last 10 times. And then you walk in with a fucking railroad spike in your head, and he goes, headaches are back, huh? That guy's a fucking idiot. Stop going to that doctor. That's what Glenn Beck is doing there. That's what some economists are doing, is that if a recession is a migraine, COVID was a spike in the fucking head, and they treat it like a migraine. It's just a headache of a different sort. And do you get the feeling that I get so wound up with that part? Because it's just, maybe it's a Libra thing. All right, now where were we? Oh yeah. Okay, round 2 of this whole thing. Can we take a break? We'll vacillate between Trump, because I don't want to have to deal with him all the time, because there's plenty of stupid to go around right now. Love you, chat room. And big hug, Anita. Also, I would like to, again, as I did this morning show, in case anybody didn't see the morning show, I want to thank Texas Paul for coming on the show, which was amazing. Appreciate it. And I look forward to him being back again in the future. And then, of course, I want to give a big verbal hug out to Stephanie Miller, because of the loss of her mom last week. And she's just kind of back and kind of getting back to normal and that stuff. So bless her heart. And she'll be dealing with it. It'll take some time to catch up with her, because that's how, when things have that kind of a wind up on it, it doesn't hit you all at once it occurs. A lot of times it'll kind of tick its way into your transom, and something usually, and anybody in the audience who's dealt with grief ever, for real, if you've ever dealt with grief, oftentimes right after it happens, right at whatever the thing that would leave you grief stricken is, life goes on oddly normal in some cases. You laugh at the same things. You're kind of off on your timing. You assume that it's going to hit you like a giant rubber mallet from the sky, but it doesn't. And it kind of germinates over time. And sometimes sometimes it's right away, and it's obvious if it's a shocking kind of thing, but especially if you're dealing with a long-term illness or the loss of a loved one who's older, there'll be a trigger moment after a little while. And my buddy Robert Hall died. I was mad for a week at the situation and probably a little bit at him, because it's just how it lands. And then like 3 days after, I have a picture of us playing on stage at the top of the stairs in the house. It's just he and I on stage. And I pass it all the time. I walk by it every day. And that day, it all flooded through seeing that picture. And so I know Steph, in her dealing with all this, will more than likely have those moments. And so love to her and anybody else who experiences something like that. Because I know it. I know it. And I know a lot of you know it. And, the love of a person's life that is no longer with us is one of the things that I think easily bonds us as human beings and is a good reminder of what's important in life and, and gives us a sense of balance where I don't want to get too just like off track on this, but it almost doesn't matter as long as somebody still has the capability of feeling when they experience this. The similarity between what everybody goes through is so much closer than almost any other thing in humanity. People don't fall in love the same way. People don't win the same way. They don't even lose the same way, but grieving has a commonality to it in its depths that I think everybody gets. It's maybe why it goes unspoken a lot. Why you don't feel like you have to address it. Because we all know. We know. And so, anyways, love to her. And I just wanted to say that. I hope that's, pardon me, sidestep. And I didn't want this dickhead on the screen when I had said something genuine, because it absolutely undermines it. Like having Mike Pillow's face around when you're trying to be serious or conscientious to your fellow human beings is counterproductive. All right, so this is his Talking Points USA thing. Yeah, if anybody says, sparkle and flame pots, it's Mike Pillow. Hey, they paid for him. You do realize that his entire industry is flammable. It's just kind of a dick move. I would have had halon extinguishers. Everybody. Hey, oh, hey, come on.
Good morning, everybody.
Anybody else broke as fuck? I mean, besides Trump, I was just talking to him back there. We both had the same legal problems. Fuck!
That speech at the White House in the spring.
Oh, they played the video of him saying that, like the faux Christian babble that he thinks he got in trouble for. This asshole thing, for as you haven't seen it, it's well known. It's the one in the Rose Garden where he took a moment and like tried to inject religion into the situation, when in reality, he thinks he was attacked because he brought up Christianity, Christ, or any of the elements of the Bible. What he got attacked for was the total blind irony of who he brought it up in defense of in terms of Donald Trump.
2019, My life changed forever. You heard our real president yesterday say, you know, he's a seller of consumers. Yeah, I said real president.
He's a seller of consumers.
Seller, he introduced me, he said, seller, you know, it's the guy that was, all he was, you know, selling consumer products, and now he's become this politician, or basically gotten into politics. Well,
yeah, something like that. I mean, he's not a politician. He's just gotten into politics. You know, like other cracked out rich fuckwads who are mad that the world isn't going their way and think they should have more of a say than other people. And so they think they can buy the president back into the White House through manipulation and violence.
it couldn't be more of the
Yeah, he's like the squeezy doggy toy version of the Koch brothers.
truth in that, because, you know, I was an ex-crack cocaine addict, and
Well, you know, depending on who you talk to, addicts will say you're always an addict. Once an addict, always an addict. But anyways, what was this? Something about grace of God and the fact that all your fellow crack addicts said, you got to get straight because you're the one who pays the bills around here.
where I'm at now with, you know.
I was broke. My company was failing. I was addicted to just a shitty substance. And now I'm broke and my company is failing and I'm addicted to a shitty person. It's so different. Life changes so much.
It's the American dream on steroids, and that is what we're fighting for.
Well, I don't know if we want it on steroids. I would rather I would rather the American dream not have liver problems late in life and get back knee and start raging at people. Maybe that's what the crime spike is about. It's the American dream on steroids. It's a rage issue.
But I want to.
Do you think whenever people, remember back in the 80s, early 90s when people go, it's like blah, blah, blah on crack or blah, blah, blah on acid. Those were the two kind of, like, Robin Williams liked the on acid part because you could go weirder with it comedically. And a lot of people would say on crack because they meant twitchy and fucked up. You think whenever somebody said, Jesus Christ, he's like Carrot Top on crack, like every time he said on crack, he would go like, fucking, I feel seen, and that makes me uncomfortable.
I want to bring you back to that speech, and that speech that I gave from the Rose Garden. I said, God gave us grace. And we prayed for grace for such a time as this, so we got to get back in our Bibles and with our families and reading the Word.
And God said, you know what? You're right. Do I have a pestilence laying around? I do, don't I? Don't I have a pestilence somewhere around here? Because I think everyone should just go to their fucking room. I don't usually pull the Father in Heaven card, but God damn it, everybody, stop what you're doing and go to your goddamn room. No pun intended. Go to your me-damn room.
And when I said that, you would have think I committed a crime, right?
Thought. You would have thought. I would have thought. Not I would have think. You're a CEO, for fuck's sake. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. Am I? All right.
That's when the attack started. And
No. They did not. And the attacks on you started for supporting Trump because that's fucked up to start with. You allege yourself a Christian, and then you're backing this dude who's an admitted serial sexual assaulter and unrepentant. Also doesn't believe that he should ever ask God for forgiveness, which is the antithesis of Christianity. It literally, all of Christianity is predicated on. The whole John 3:16 thing is secondary to asking forgiveness and being granted it by the grace of God. This is what he's talking about. And so the idea that you would just slather it all over fucking Donald Trump, a man who brags about grabbing women by the pussy, and literally in an interview said, there's nothing I would have to ask God forgiveness for, because why? He thinks the premise of your entire religious beliefs are weak and cartoonish. He thinks you're a chump. That's why the attacks came. They had nothing to do with your alleged beliefs. It was that everybody knew they were horseshit when you started using them to protect that guy.
And they've never really let up. But I want to say this is...
That's because you predicated January 6th, and you have been working to justify it ever since. Your actions led directly to the death of Roseanne Boyle and Ashley Babbitt and the assault of over 140 police officers. And ever since then, you have been justifying their martyrdom. That's why you think if you went back to fucking selling pills and go, well, he lost the election, so shit.
I see people all the time and they say,
no, he doesn't.
Mike, this doesn't feel like grace. And I'll
Mike, I think you're full of shit.
Say, oh yeah, we're living in the best time in history to be alive, and I'm going to tell you that right now. Why God, or that God.
That's what you say to people who come up to you and say this doesn't feel like grace? That's your fucking response? Of course it is. You're a multimillionaire. Even your problems are paid for.
Did give us grace. I'm going to take you back to December.
By the way, I would like to say that money won't give you grace, but it will allow you to park your yacht right next to it. So,
December of 2019, wherein we were all.
They played the tape, dickhead. We saw it. They saw it. They were there. They all remember it.
Our lives had all improved because of. I didn't think that politics mattered, and of course, I was back on crack, but I still.
Of course.
Didn't think politics mattered. And it didn't affect me, I could just something that's out there, that's politicians and stuff. And
yeah, drug war, something didn't really. I mean, I'm obviously rich white Minnesotan and with a fucking mustache, blazing away millions of dollars from my company. So obviously the chief of police and everybody's gonna look the other way for me. So politics, schmolitics.
And but boy, did we all learn what good common sense politics can do to our lives when you make decisions on problem solution and what they'll manifest to help all people.
Okay, you didn't smoke crack through the entire pandemic, did you? You do remember Trump saying it's really nothing, it's going to go away with the heat in the summer, it's all done, it's not a big deal, and she's handling it. He told me, and I believe him, and look at this trade deal, and it's going to be fine, and we're going to open up, and it's fine, and it's just a couple more days, and remember thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of Americans dying? You don't remember any of that? Christ, I always thought, I would have thought any cocaine derivatives would have made you more attentive or something.
And that's where we were in December of 2019. Everybody's lives had physically improved.
Little did they know.
They'd all improved somewhat, even if you started down here with no forks all the way up to 4 forkers.
Okay, how many forkers are hanging around? What the fork is he talking about? No forkers to 4 forkers. Okay, that's a redneck to rich people phrase that based on the idea that rednecks don't eat with a fork, they eat with a spoon or with their hands. And so they don't have a fork. Because why would you? You don't have any cuttable meat. You eat everything out of a bowl with like mac and cheese, shit like that. And then all the way up to 4 forks, your 3 forks, and then your dessert fork, that idea or whatever. And by the way, this forker has 4 fucking forks.
And they, but at that time we were not, people weren't coming to Jesus. They weren't pouring in, going, thank you, God, and surrendering to our Lord Jesus Christ.
Right, because they had a little bit of thing. They'd went from no forks to a fork and a half. Sometimes 2/3 of a fork was enough, and they were like, I don't have to. My life has improved so much under Donald. You know what? Fuck Jesus. Thank you, Donald Trump.
They were
They were grateful to Donald Trump, but not to Jesus. And Jesus got mad, so he made us all sick and said, "Stay home."
Complacent, going, "Oh, this is great. This is great," and
yeah, that's how everybody acted during Trump, especially during the George Floyd protests. It was great.
And then we all know what happened.
Do we? Tell us. Because I think I know what happened, but I'm not sure you know what happened. Fuck happened?
They threw the China virus at us, and
they threw the China virus at us. Now, I don't know if he's been watching a lot of RFK and if he means, the Ashkenazi Jews threw it at us, or the Chinese themselves, or obviously the deep state probably threw it at us. But I do like the fact that he's recognizing, that he and the vast majority of people believe that are there believe it was a crafted bioweapon, which again, I need to remind everyone that if that's the case, Donald Trump was presiding over this country at the time of the greatest biological attack in human history. And his response to it was to sell the people who attacked us all our beef, pork, corn, and soybeans.
This and the 2020 election, which, by the way, I'm going to say the 2020 election, I believe, will go down in history as one of the top 3 elections in history, which is 2016, 2020, and 2024.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that we had one after the Civil War is pretty impressive. The first one ranks up there. 2008, our first black president. That's a kind of an important one. I think, FDR's fourth one, that obviously stands out because it's why we have term limits for the president.
They're all together.
Yeah, they are. They're a big mush.
This is one.
Like Trump's face or his gut.
You've got to look from up above and see this whole plan.
Yeah, God's got a plan. I mean, it might look like shit up close, but from far away, it looks like a mountain of shit. If you squint.
I'm going to tell you why. In the 2020 election, if it had went through and they wouldn't, and our great president, Donald Trump, wouldn't have got all those votes they didn't expect to stop everything and all these deviations that came out, we would have all went to bed at 3 a.m. Biden would have won, and we would have never known that they've been boiling us like frogs, and our nation was going to be over. Okay.
So be happy Trump lost, because he didn't really lose, and he lost so bad that we can't believe it, and therefore, what?
If the election would have been turned over on December 14th or any of those other dates to Donald Trump, I believe we'd have lost our country forever.
Well, that's partly true, sure. That if Trump had managed to wrestle it back after he'd lost fair and fucking square, yeah, because we wouldn't have a democracy anymore. We'd have some sort of weird dictatorship.
Because things.
Where's Dick? Hi, Dick. Do we like Dick? Yes.
Had to play out the way God intended. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go to January 4th.
I agree. I'm a dope.
Of 2020.
When was this?
Oh, yeah, that's normal. On January 4th of 2020, I was in Georgia with our great real president, and they were the Senate race.
Our great real president. So not Trump. There's another guy? Probably talking about Lynn Wood.
They're the last 2 senators. I got there and I said it hit me all at once because I'm a little bit into marketing, right? And
well, you were.
I always try and look at it from the other side, from the evil, from the other side. What are they thinking? Why are they doing this?
Yes, I always look at other pillow companies as they are evil. What are these evil comforter companies doing?
You heard Tucker yesterday in his speech talk about.
No, I didn't.
About deflection, all this nonsense out there about men breastfeeding and trends and all this stuff. That's all deflection. So you all fight that, and over here the real battle's going on. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, he's saying everything you guys spend all day, every day fighting on the internet about is you following a laser pointer because you're fucking stupid. But he is smarter than you, and that's why he's there to point out the fact that you guys are a bunch of gullible dickheads who fight about the wrong things all the time on the internet. And so every time you bitch about Dylan Mulvaney or Drag Queen Story Hour or Bud fucking Light or abortion or any of that kind of stuff, you're a sucker. You're a big dummy. You're just being led around by the nose. That's what Tucker said to these Talking Points USA people who spend all day talking about Dylan Mulvaney and Drag Queen Story Hour and Bud Light and all that shit. He's basically peeing on them, and they're paying him for it.
And that was a great thing I got out of his message.
And
And
yeah, you guys are a bunch of suckers.
but I sat there and I prayed that I said, God, please let them steal both these senators.
So it's your fault, you motherfucker. Promise me you'll only use your powers for good from now on, Mike Pillow. Dear God, please let them steal both senators' What? So we're all living in Mike Pillow's nightmare? Is that what God apparently just goes, okay, Mike. All right, you asked for it.
And you all say, why would you do that, Mike?
Because you're, no, we know why. You're a psychopath. You're a complete moron. This is because you have stupid thoughts like this. This is the part and parcel with your methodology. We get it.
Well, if I was them, if I was the marketing for evil, I would have said, give them back one of these senators, give them back a Republican so they shut up about this election.
Yeah, but that presumes that they have control over that, though. Right? That presumes, all right, that there's an evil. If there isn't one, then what? What if it just was an election? Why pray about? Why not pray first and foremost that God enter the hearts of the people that you think are not enlightened to your thought form, as opposed to praying that evil gets its way just so the world can. What? Honest to God, was Susan Sarandon holding your hand when you made this prayer? Was she whispering in your ear by any chance?
That would have been the smart thing to do. They already had a bunch of senators corrupt anyway, rhinos and uniparties, so they didn't need it. But they,
yeah, they kind of do need it. I mean, it's literally the balance of the Senate. I mean, that's, of course they need it. You know, apparently I'm evil, so yeah, I wanted us to have control of the Senate. You fucking dumbass. What?
But they had a plan, you know, they had a plan. So anyway.
And you didn't, except to fuck with God's plan, apparently. Apparently, you're putting in requests, God has a plan. If you believe God has a plan, why are you always injecting shit into this? And why? Yeah, like, all right, fine, okay. I had this plan where everything was going to go well, and everybody was going to kind of understand there was going to be a modular move towards balanced abortion rights, and my own people would make the sort of ethical and moral thing out of it. Fuck it. He wants them to just have it, so fuck it. Okay, zip.
I prayed for that, and I'm going, and of course they took them both. Now, if they would have gave back one, we wouldn't be speaking here right now. I guarantee it. Everybody would.
Bullshit. If you'd have gotten one in the Senate, they'd been holding stuff up, but they would have still gone after the fact that you think Trump didn't lose? You would have shut up?
Just said, come on, shut up about the election. We still have the Senate. We'll get them back in 2022. We'll campaign harder. We'll just fight harder. Wrong. It would have been, oh yeah, that's normal. Over if they would have done that. But they didn't do that because they're greedy. Evil is greedy. That's a big advantage we have, everybody.
Trump already left, right? Because I don't want, I just, that would hurt his feelings. I'm kidding. He thinks evil's cool.
Okay. Evil is greedy, and they took.
I think it's greed is evil, isn't it? I mean, evil isn't it? It's a trait, not a. Never mind.
They took both those.
I don't know why I argue these points.
Senators, and when it happened, you all knew where you were standing, going, oh, now what do we do? Hey, maybe there was crime, maybe there was fraud in the election, but they had a backup. They had
no. I got news for you. Nobody in the Republican side genuinely thought that the runoff for the senators' races was stolen. Nobody. They all went, this is Trump's fault. Trump is the one who talked these people out of not voting. He told everybody it's a rigged election, it's bullshit, and they stayed the fuck home. That's what gave the Senate to the Democrats more than any other factor in Georgia, is that Trump told MAGA as a voting bloc to stand down. That's not even a question. It wasn't even the same fucking election.
January 6th plan, okay? And when they had January 6th plan, and I'm going to tell you two of the most important dates in history that are kind of forgotten here is January 7th and 8th.
Uh-huh. Yeah, why? Because we were busy dealing with the fact that a bunch of maggots had attacked the Capitol and carried a Confederate flag through there and curb stomped a woman having an overdose who was carrying a "Don't Tread on Me" flag and tased a cop nearly to death and shit in the rotunda and filmed themselves doing it. Gee, I wonder why 7th and 8th don't ring a bell as much as the focus on the 6th.
On January 7th and 8th, that was the day they tried to turn out our lights forever. And
huh?
And that's our voice.
Why?
1.2 million Americans were deplatformed that day, including our real president.
Okay, citation needed. I will argue that I don't doubt that there were quote unquote Americans that were calling for acts of violence and that kind of stuff that were silenced or kicked off of private companies' websites so they didn't incite violence from that website because it's a bad look. But I would also argue, prove to me they were all Americans. Voting's one thing. You motherfuckers don't believe that people actually are registered to vote and are real Americans voting, and you think there was a bunch of fraudulent fucking voting, but you believe that every account that calls themselves Joe America 6974812 is a fucking real American account because they got a bald eagle as their avatar and they joined 2 months before the election. Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to hear shit about voter ID until these motherfuckers start admitting that the vast majority of accounts that were pretending to be MAGA online, and this is one of the reasons why it seemed like, oh my God, we've got so many few voters, then they must be cheating. Now, how about this? How about a lot of the people you're talking to online don't have the right to vote because they're not fucking Americans? Did that ever occur to you? Mr. fucking voter ID?
But churches were deplatformed. Anybody that had spoke out.
Churches weren't deplatformed. What are you talking about? I think what he means is that churches couldn't gather because COVID was happening, and the vast majority of churches have older congregations with, rare exception. And these are the people hardest hit by it. And so a lot of states specifically were saying, yeah, don't gather your flock together. Like, do it in a parking lot or some shit. Again, the idea that somehow churches, and this has to do with like not taxing churches and the up and downside for churches to that. On the one hand, they don't have to pay for it. On the other hand, they have to have regular money flowing in because it's not like I guess they're saving up for the building fund. I think is what's always been the experience. But there's nothing about church that says you have to join together with people during a fucking hurricane, or like, we recognize the valley is flooded tonight and there's the church is underwater, but we expect everyone to throw on a fucking snorkel and get down here. Put on your scuba gear, Grandma. It's time to pray.
About politics or the election or anything was deplatformed on Vimeo, YouTube, crooked Twitter at the time, Suckerbuck's Facebook, all these things, right?
Suckerbuck is his anti-Semitic Jews money thing that he says all the time. Just can't let that just zip by. I wonder if he's gonna. Hey, Mike, have you ever thought about joining RFK's campaign? I know they're looking for staff.
And we were silenced.
No, you weren't. You were not. This asshole started his own goddamn network. No one silenced you.
The ones that hadn't spoke out, they were in fear because of January 6th to even mention anything.
Well, no, I just think what qualified as mentioning things was, that from your point of view, was call people to arms and make them attack their fellow Americans. physically,
And if
with violence.
you all know, one of the things on January 7th was John Radcliffe, the Department of Defense or whatever it was, DNI, I think it is, and he put out a statement on January 7th that China had interfered with our election, but it got lost in all the mix. It got lost. These are things that they killed our voice that day, or tried to. They didn't succeed.
One moment, please. I don't know where. Okay, here it is. It's the Washington Times. Intelligent. Oops, hold on. No, thank you. Comments for detail and okay, so this is what he's referring to, just so you know. That's Radcliffe. John, Intel on China politicized. Outgoing Director of National Intelligence John Radcliffe dropped a political bombshell in a report issued on the final days of the Trump administration, accusing U.S. intelligence analysts of politicization by playing down China's role in interference with the November 3rd presidential election. From my unique vantage point as the individual who consumes all of the U.S. government's most sensitive intelligence on the People's Republic of China, I do not believe the majority view expressed by the intelligence community analysts fully and accurately reflects the scope of the Chinese government's efforts to influence the 2020 U.S. federal election. The DNI said that what he called the politicization of China election influence reporting was the result of undue pressure being brought to bear on analysts who offered an alternative view based on the intelligence. The debate centers on whether intelligence analysts emphasized Russian meddling while playing down the role of Beijing during the election. Mr. Radcliffe said the 3-page report raises broader questions about the quality of U.S. intelligence analysis. The comments followed a more detailed assessment by Barry Zuloff, the intelligence community's ombudsman for politicization. Mr. Zuloff stated in a separate report to Congress that he found a number of examples of faulty analysis on China's efforts and a greater emphasis by analysts on Russia's interference as that he concluded were rooted in the analysts' bias against President Trump. China analysts appear hesitant to assess Chinese actions as undue influence or interference. These analysts appear reluctant to have their analysis on China brought forward because they tended to disagree with the administration's policies, saying, in fact, I don't want our intelligence used to support these policies. These analysts appeared reluctant to have their analysis on China brought forward because they tended to disagree with the administration's policies, saying, in fact, I don't want our intelligence used to support these policies. By contrast, Russian affairs analysts promoted clear evidence of Moscow's meddling. Mr. Radcliffe said the issue involved disputes between the NIC counsel, analysts under his office, and CIA officials who rejected the NIC views. CIA managers also took steps to pressure intelligence analysts to withdraw their support from alternative viewpoints about meddling. Okay, the NIC analyst said that the CIA is engaged in politicization of intelligence, and Mr. Radcliffe agreed. U.S. intelligence election gives the false impression that the National Intelligence Officer, Cyber, is the only analyst who holds the minority view on China. Mr. Radcliffe, he is not. A fact that the ombudsman, okay, blah, blah, blah. Where's the report that he actually fucking wrote? Is it too much to just show the goddamn thing? Mr. Radcliffe comments exposing political bias by CIA analysts on China highlights a problem with the report for years in this space. Ring pro true, blah, blah, blah. Moments later, experts let retired Tatelli found CLA. He's got to, hold on. We've got to have a, where's the friggity frack? Timeline US. Trump DNI stirs dispute over China 2020. Okay, so this is Bloomberg's report. This is way early. This is not on the 7th, though. This is the problem that I have, is that this didn't come out on the 7th, so I'm not quite sure what the fuck he's talking about. Radcliffe office says report to Congress will be delayed. Disagreement is over extent of interference by China. Spy chief won't meet Friday's deadline to submit a classified report to Congress on foreign affairs to sway the November 3rd election because of arguments within the intelligence community over whether China should be cited more prominently. A statement from Director of National Intelligence Radcliffe's office on Wednesday night said the deadline won't be met because career officers in the IC community say they've received relevant reporting since the election and a number of agencies have not finished coordinating the product. On Tuesday, Ratcliffe was weighing refusing to sign off on the report unless it more fully reflected the national security threat posed by China's efforts, according to people familiar with the matter, who spoke on condition of anonymity. Trump's team's focus, Trump team's China focus distracts from Russia election meddling. Appointees say China is top election threat despite evidence. Right. So this is the argument that they put forward. U.S. Intelligence and National Security Office face a new obstacle in protecting this year's election, an effort by President Trump and some of his top aides to downplay the threat posed by Russia, and while inflating the danger from China, according to officials. So that's what he's talking about. But I honestly don't know if anybody can find the report that he's referring to on the 7th. I think he's talking out of his ass.
That voice, I always like doing this comparison. When I was growing up as a kid, we had black and white TVs, and we'd turn them off, and it would go down this little tiny dot. And we'd sit there, and we'd turn it back on before the dot went out, and it'd come back to life. Well, that voice was our dot. And like Ronald Reagan said, we're like a beacon of light on a hill. If the lights go out here, they go out everywhere. That's how close we came that day to our lights being out.
Did they play the national anthem before the dot, though?
But ever since that day, they've been coming back to life. And with their, I thank Turning Point. I thank Charlie Kirk Turning Point for giving me a platform and a voice, and everybody.
And some flame pots.
It's so important. Just so important. Well, they didn't stop there. On February 4th of 2021, this is another significant day that's been lost. A machine company, I won't name the name, but it was Smartmatic. I guess I will name it. They sued Fox News. This is just news. They sued them on February 4th of 2021. When that was the start of something called lawfare that hadn't been done in the United States, according to Alan Dershowitz, since the 1700s.
Bullshit. Suing someone for defamation, or suing a news network for defamation, and it hasn't been since the 1700s since that happened. And secondly, maybe, just maybe, nobody's had to do it on the scale that it's happened until Fox came along and started carrying Trump's balls.
And that put fear into the rest of the people, and it also put fear into...
Yeah, they were scared to lie. I'm kidding. They kept lying about other shit.
To conservative...
They were just more selective about their lies. They tended to go at just lie about people who can't or won't fight back.
Media not to ever talk or let anybody on there to talk about our elections again.
No, you could go in there and talk about your elections. They've talked about the elections a lot. You just can't, sans evidence, accuse companies like Smartmatic and Dominion of engaging in fucking David Icke, Alex Jones level conspiracies.
Okay, so we lost that voice. That'd be your Foxes of the world and your Newsmax. We lost their voice. They're afraid, getting sued. So now we had no voice, okay? No voice where you're not, sometimes not saying anything is worse than saying anything at all. I learned that the hard way.
What? Sometimes what?
Their voice. They're afraid, getting sued. So now we had no voice, okay? No voice where you're not, sometimes not saying anything is worse than saying anything at all. I learned that the hard way.
Sometimes not saying anything is worse than saying anything at all. I'm drawing a blank. Sometimes not saying anything is worse than saying anything at all. Yeah, I mean, I guess what's the anything at all? Yelling fire in a crowded theater, screaming racial. I mean, if you're talking about just, sometimes keeping your trap shut. Well, I mean, maybe somebody's about to be hit by a train, and the one thing that would make them walk straight to you is to scream the N-word, or if it's a woman, call them something misogynistic so they walk straight at you and punch you in the face, but at least the train didn't hit them. Is that I'm thinking way too much into this, aren't I? I'm giving this ridiculousness far too much credit. What the fuck?
They're afraid, getting sued. So now we had no voice, okay? No voice where you're not, sometimes not saying anything is worse than saying anything at all. I learned that the hard way.
I couldn't learn it at all. What? All right, hold on. I'm going to the chat. I gotta give me 1 sec. I gotta go to the chat for this one. Chat room. Does anybody know what the living shit that means? I have no idea. I'm trying very hard. Like, yeah, I think he might have it backwards. Sometimes saying anything is worse than saying nothing at all. That doesn't work either. I get, like, that's like saying sometimes up is worse than down. Like, I mean, you can make blind, I don't know, what the shit? What is that? I'm getting you don't speak pillow. I'm getting a brain cramp. Honest to God. I seriously, you ever get a brain Charlie horse? That's what this is. And the worst part about it, he's just kind of like, I learned that the hard way. You'd have to. There is no easy way to understand or learn something that's that much fucking gibberish. Whew. Good God. One more time when we move on, because I
their voice. They're afraid, getting sued. So now we had no voice, okay? No voice, where you're not, sometimes not saying anything is worse than saying anything at all. I learned that the hard way.
Sometimes not saying anything is worse than not saying nothing at all. Not saying nothing, that would be saying something. Put you back. I can't. I smell almonds. I don't know. I give up. I don't speak gibberish. I don't know what that. I need to hold on. I got to call. I need help. Hey man, what can I do to help you for? Hey, I understand y'all are having a hard time understanding my hero, Mike Pillar. Mike Pillar, what's he saying? Hey man, I'd love to explain it to you, but I was busy. I was out there behind the outhouse working on a lever system. Don't get excited. It's not to make it. I'm not turning it into a pump system, nothing like that. It's a catapult because I don't like my neighbor. But that's not the important part. Hey, tell me what this fucker said again, and then I'll run. I'm pretty sure I can run you guys through this. All right, don't you worry about it. You're in good hands now. Okay, now what, Mike Pillow? What'd you say? Tell me what you said.
They're afraid, getting sued. So now we had no voice, okay? No voice, where you're not, sometimes not saying anything is worse than saying anything at all. I learned that the hard way.
I can't. My brain. Oh. Oh, goddamn. You ever have a thought that's so confabulated that it goes right in your ear, and then it twists itself up like a brain worm? All I gotta say is, as soon as he finished that sentence, I learned it the hard way, I heard a loud snap. But I think I can figure it out. What he means is, if I may paraphrase, that Mike Pillow has finally learned that he should have kept his fucking mouth shut and sold pillows. You're welcome. Thank you, Ficus. I really, honest to God, couldn't have worked that out without you. It's rough stuff. So we continue.
And but I'll tell you real quick, on January.
Real quick, please. Yeah, wrap it up.
January 9th, I was given evidence. You all know that. I'm not even going to go through that. And
yeah, we all saw it. It was life-changing. I saw it. I was very impressed. We were all very impressed. I watched all of your documentaries. I was convinced. I was convinced. I absolutely was convinced by the evidence that you presented that you're a deluded asshole.
And that explained to me why, one thing bothered me most about the election of 2020, I had done all my investigation myself, and I look at numbers every day, and I couldn't understand why all these people that voted in every county in the country and every state where you had non-residents vote that didn't live in the state, or that that didn't make sense to me. I go, people are genuinely good people, and I just couldn't see people going, hey, they're in Minnesota, my home state, let's go march into Wisconsin, 8,000 of us, and go vote, commit a crime.
Right. Because they didn't.
It wasn't going to happen.
Right. And it didn't.
It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to anybody else either. And I've seen all your evidence. I've watched all your movies. Dipshit. You're so close to walking away from this. Stop for a second. Just stop. You know how much better your life would be if you went, oh, fuck. I've been full of shit this whole time. I let my intoxication about Donald Trump's success as a fan of The Apprentice lull me into this lunacy where I actually believed this shit and then just your life would be vastly, as would, by the way, your employees' lives would be improved.
But then I find out that, hey, this could have been computer manipulated. And the evidence I got on January 9th, that's what I got, that evidence. So I tried to get that, as you all know, to the White House because there's a government gag order, and I tried to get it signed to get it released to the world. And
there's a government gag order.
And that effort failed, but that was significant.
Shocked. That effort failed, did it? Why would that be? I mean, I can't imagine that Trump would, if he got evidence, wouldn't want that released. Like, as president of the United States, he's still president. He could have released that government gag order on his own. He could have signed an executive order, still as the executive of the office. This is before the 21st. Shit. If you showed it to him, I you know what? Probably not. He probably wouldn't have signed. He's much more satisfied talking to groups of under 1,000 every time they come to West Palm Beach and bitching about his legal troubles and selling Trump tumblers. Who wants to be president when this happens?
Because as I was
just $10.
Crossing on this one, January 15th, as I was crossing back into out of Washington, D.C., Ben Carson called me and he said, did you get it signed? I said, no. And I was just like defeated because I'm going, wow, we're going to save the country and save everything. And
so Trump didn't sign it. He wouldn't sign it. He saw it and he was like, look, I know bullshit.
Once again, if that would have happened any other way, we'd have lost our country probably forever.
What are you talking? If you think it was stolen and Trump could have released the evidence and the evidence would have been totally convincing and everybody would have been convinced and he would have stayed president, they would have been caught cheating and it would have been fit. I don't know. I'm getting another brain cramp. I smell almonds. Burnt toast. Burnt toast.
Because everything had to unfold just the way it's unfolding and be revealed to us, all the stuff that's out there, the evil.
So God wanted Joe Biden to be president. It was ordained. Has to happen. Kind of like the Omen. It's just, I mean, so who are you to even try and stop him? What if God wants him reelected? The fuck are you doing? How dare you? He put him in there once. He made Trump a one-termer, but he put Joe Biden in. I don't know. I think there's a very strong chance you're going against God's plan.
But Ben said to me something really significant. He said, Mike.
Yeah, but he said it very quiet, I bet.
He said, God doesn't work like this. He doesn't work on our time. He works on his timing.
Right, yeah. And since a blink of his eye takes 1 billion years, and he's probably busy taking care of he's probably fucking around with something in Andromeda right now. He's like, Earth, get out of here.
And he said, maybe things have to unfold.
Yeah, maybe Trump's heirs will be king of the earth in 4,000 years when we're all Morlocks and Eloy.
And things need to be revealed.
Yeah, they do. Okay, so, and then he sent you a dick pic, didn't he? Things need to be revealed. Here, look at the text I just sent you. Ah, Ben!
Where's Dick? Hi, Dick. Do we like Dick? Yes.
Come on, man.
Before we get to this great place, and he gave me a piece, right?
Really? Was it registered, or did he give you a holster and shells, or you just got to dig those up?
Well, from that point on, then every time, I got just attacked by the left. He call them the fake news media. But that was my way to get the word out. So, if they wouldn't have kept attacking, that was my way to get the word out. And I'm going, they go, Mike, would you do it again? Knowing what you know now? Absolutely. I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, then you're an asshole. Because if you'd have changed a bunch of things, you wouldn't have nearly the, I mean, you would, all right. This is why Trump lost. This is why Trump lost. And this is why Trump will lose again. And this is why Trump has been a loser his whole life. So much so that he lost he won the presidency by losing the popular vote. And he lost by the greatest margin of any president in history. Because he surrounds himself with people who go back. I wouldn't change a thing. You should. You fucking chimp. Good Lord. I don't get it. All right, let's jump to round 2, if I may. Yeah, it's this one. I think this is probably having to deal with, this is Trump talking to Maria Bartiromo. You're watching House Parks Megaworldwide. Give a thumbs up, by the way. We've got a bunch of people in here. There's a big crowd. Obviously, it's huge. There's a huge crowd in the chat.
Even outside, it's packed.
Yeah, outside, like in the rest of the industry, the rest of the industry. The internet is...
Even outside, it's packed.
Yeah, it's full. The internet is full of House Parks Megaworldwide viewers. And So, if I may, get your sniff ready. Here we go.
Did the 45th president elevate Christopher Wray to FBI director? And in retrospect, it was, quote, probably a mistake, President Trump said. Here's Trump's reaction to Christopher Wray's Judiciary Committee testimony Thursday in part 2 of my interview with the 45th president.
Very exciting. Let's get to it. I'm sure he watched it. Are we going to get the... How many people believe he actually watched it? For real? Did he watch because it's like a couple hours.
So Christopher Wray, the other day, in front of the judiciary leadership, is...
Don't tell him. Don't tell him what happened. Ask him what he thought. Did you watch his testimony? Let him say yes. And then ask him what he thought of it. And then ask him, were there any concerning moments for you? Was there anything that he said that stood out to you more than any other? You can't... All right.
Defending the FBI, saying no. There's no politics at the FBI.
There's no crying in baseball.
Well, look, the FBI
Free health care for illegal... look.
has become tremendously political. DOJ is weaponized. It's not... And FBI is weaponized, too.
I have to push up on my hard palate holder because I blew a hole in it with Coke, and it's something Dodd Jr. We go to the same guy, and I have to hold it in place when I sniff. Otherwise, it sucks up it turns sideways and sucks up into and then there's a clicking sound.
I know other
and then God bless United
people in the FBI. They're incredible. The agents, they're incredible. So I hate to say the FBI because you have people in the FBI that are very angry. When Comey went after Hillary Clinton, didn't go after her when he mentioned her crimes and then she's been exonerated.
It was a matter.
They were going to have a strike in the FBI, in my opinion. That's what I heard, and that's what I read. And
yeah, and that's what I made up in my own
I
mind.
believe that. And that's why he had to come out and say, keep it going a little while before he tried to exonerate her. But if you remember that stupid press conference that he had where he talked about all of her so-called crimes, and he said, but she's not guilty of this, she's not guilty of that, she's not guilty. All he had to do is say she's not guilty, and people wouldn't have known what happened. But he liked to grandstand, so he wanted to be on television for an hour.
That is the weirdest sniff ever. That thing, what the... What is that? Does anybody know? Because I like if your nose is running, you have postnasal drip. There's that's how most people do it. A lot of is that a TV thing? It's an Adderall sniff? Is that a benzo sniff? That it grosses me out.
And the FBI, the real people of the
real people,
FBI, not the
real
corrupt
FBI.
Ones, because
No, not the corrupt ones, obviously.
most of them aren't corrupt. They're
Agreed.
great. But the agents and a lot of the people in the FBI, they watched that too. They thought it was terrible. And I believe they were going to literally strike.
Yeah, they were not literally going to strike. They just weren't. There are no signs that they were going to have a strike because they dragged this Hillary Clinton email thing out. No, just quite frankly, no. They were not going to strike because Hillary Clinton wasn't prosecuted by the DOJ.
And then what happened is Comey said, if you remember, he'd exonerate her. Then he had to go back and says, well, no, I'm going to redo it. And it was a whole mess. But
he has those backwards, by the way. He has the dates backwards. But he's talking about we went through it and we didn't find anything, which happened while he was president. The thing about we have to look into it further happened before that, and it's why he's president. It was one of the things that allowed him to cross the finish line.
The people in the FBI are not that way, but the top people have been so bad. When you have McCabe and you have Lisa Page and the whole group, Strzok and Page, that was a wonderful couple.
No, they were all
when you had all of
Yeah, they're getting laid and we're not. It's disgusting. I don't know what to tell you.
these people with the insurance policy, what happens, darling? What happens if he doesn't?
Is this the same? So when he's talking about windmills and darling, I want to watch television tonight, but the wind isn't blowing. He's acting out a sitcom in his head that's Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. Then is that who the characters are? Are we finally finding out who these characters are?
What happens if he wins? Oh, it won't happen.
I remember.
But if he does,
I remember he said that. Remember? Mm-hmm. I remember that whole thing, and then it didn't actually. Yeah.
remember this. But if he does, we have an insurance policy. Well, the insurance policy is we're going to get him out. How bad when you see that now?
Well, the insurance policy was evidence against you. You just stacked the DOJ to protect you.
If I didn't fire Comey.
He would have followed through on looking into the evidence. Right.
And remember, some people said, oh, you should have fired him. I fired him very early. Very, very early.
Also, if you'll notice, almost sentence for sentence a repetition from the first chunk of this.
A lot of people, some very smart people that you know very well, said, I made a mistake in firing Comey because that was what upset the apple cart. Now they say it was one of the greatest instinctual moves that they've ever seen because
who said this?
The insurance policy was they were going to get me out. They were going to try and get me out by making fake charges and fake crimes.
And the irony is they didn't have to because you'd committed so many on your own that all they had to do was look. But then you fired Comey so he couldn't look. And then you had Barr keep Mueller from being able to indict or look into your finances. Yeah, instinctually, it's one of the greatest acts of CYA ever.
Who would have thought this could have happened to our country? Who would have thought it?
It didn't. It happened to you.
It's not even possible. Now, the FBI has tremendous problems of credibility. The DOJ is weaponized like I've never seen before. I mean, they come after me on boxes and they can't find drugs. You know how many cameras they have opposite the front door of the Situation Room where these drugs were the cocaine. Now I understand they have many other forms of drugs.
It's almost like he's licking his chops at the idea that cocaine was floating around.
They know who this was. They know the person. It's impossible. How can they not know the person?
The Secret Service said that they are ending the investigation of the cocaine found at the White House, and they didn't have any fingerprints, and they said that they cannot identify whose cocaine it was.
I've gotten to know the Secret Service really well.
And they have, if you need cocaine, they will get it for you.
Okay. And I can't speak more highly of people. These are incredible people. And I believe that they know everything. They're really smart and really good at what they do. And I don't think it's possible for bags of cocaine to be left in a certain area by the Situation Room. I'm not talking about, 5 blocks away. The Situation Room.
Yeah, that's, well, again, he's lying about where it is, but we'll get to that later.
Where you decide on war, where you decide on nuclear, where you...
Well, so you got to stay up, I guess. I mean, if you're going to be coked out, I guess that would be the place. Like, what do you, the 3 a.m. phone call? That everybody's like, you'll be asleep. What happens when they wake you up at 3 a.m.? And well, whoever's doing cocaine, clearly, they're awake.
So are tourists allowed in that area where the cocaine was found?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You don't think so? Were you ever there?
I think only people that have strong passes or family members are able to go through those doors.
Strong passes or family members. So if you don't have a family, if you're an orphan, you're not allowed.
It's very interesting. I was much nicer to Biden in speeches and all. I actually was criticized by some people. I respect
No, he wasn't.
the office of the presidency.
The fuck you do.
And not that I was perfect with him, but I could have been much tougher. The last few weeks I've been very nasty and very tough and very truthful. He's a corrupt man. He's a corrupt president.
What do you mean the last few weeks?
He's grossly incompetent.
But he's not on coke. We know that.
And the reason I ask, because they actually indicted an opponent who was the president of the United States. I got indicted. I said, I can't believe it.
What? Hey, get back. We were talking about the Secret Service that work. You have people in the Secret Service who are surrounding you right now as a former president, and they say they can't figure out who the coke belonged to. And you just said that people with very big passes and their family members can go through there, whatever the fuck that means. And then this happened. What the fuck where are you? I mean, honestly, I think, is this your way of saying I haven't done coke? This seems more like something like you roofied yourself.
I got indicted.
And I'm like, and I just found my coke. It took them this long to find. They indicted me before they even found the coke that Don left in that box. I don't know. Do they even use those boxes? Those holding boxes outside of the Situation Room down the hallway about a block and a half away? Do they even use those? They used them when we were there. Don used them all the time. He had to. And they've just found my drugs.
I could tell you stories of what
Go ahead.
happened when I went down to New York and when I went down with policemen looking at me and crying,
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, apparently there's a lot of waft from your Depends.
Ted Kennedy told me he's a friend of mine, believe it or not. Different sides of the aisle, but he was a friend of mine.
Was he crying?
Liked me. I liked him. I did him a big favor one time that helped him a lot on something, and he
Okay. Is there another dead woman we need to know about in the Kennedy family?
always liked me. And he said to me a long time ago, I was saying, who's the smartest senator? And I won't tell you the answer because I don't particularly like the guy. I said, who's the dumbest? He said, probably Joe. This is Ted Kennedy. He knew them all. I said, what do you mean, Joe? Who's Joe? Joe Biden. He's the dumbest. And so
Ted Kennedy said Joe Biden was the dumbest senator.
Years ago, that's right. He said he was the dumbest. I said, who's the dumbest? He said, probably Joe. He said,
he said, now he's dead, so you can't ask him. And
he's hale and hearty and well-met personality. But you go to policy or you go to taxes or anything that's complicated, he doesn't have a clue.
It has no clue whatsoever, which is why he was against the surge and why he told Obama that the generals are going to come to you every week and tell you that they just need 8, 10, 9 more months, and then you'll eventually get out of Afghanistan, just needing a little more resources and a little more this, and he was right. So you're literally the dumbest senator ever, who, according to him, doesn't have a clue about any of this stuff, just stumbled into the best jobs numbers the country has had in 60 years, just accidentally. And you, who has the best words, allowed China to attack us with a bioweapon, and the only response you could come up with was a trade deal.
This is stuff that he told me years ago. Who would have thought this guy was going to become?
You mean during the time you were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein a lot? during that 20-year window? Ted Kennedy? You're hanging out with Ted Kennedy when you were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? And Ted Kennedy told you that Joe Biden was the dumbest senator that was out there? And he's hanging out with a guy who partied with Jeffrey Epstein for 2 decades?
President. But in prime time, he wasn't very good.
Was it
In his prime. Prime time is a programming note on television. In his prime, not prime time. Fuck why? I mean, he just latched on into a misunderstanding. It's like when people say supposedly.
a mistake to put Christopher Wray there? I mean, obviously the FBI is not following any of the things that you're talking
See, they're fucking with him. Trump appointed Wray as FBI director in 2017.
about.
Sadly, it probably was. You know, he was recommended
Sadly, it probably was.
very strongly by
Yeah, it's not my fault. He was recommended very strongly. I know a lot of people. I know the best people, but I didn't know that one. I picked the worst guy.
Chris Christie, who's, you know,
So you, wait a minute. No, fuckhead. You don't get to shit on Chris Christie. You took his advice. If Chris Christie is an idiot and not to be trusted and is a terrible judge of quality when it comes to employees, what the fuck does that say about you that you took his advice?
a sad case. I mean, I watch him. He's a sad case.
Boy,
But nobody gives a shit about him. He's running for president. That's not important. Chris Wray. You appointed Chris Wray. Stick to it.
he's in this race, he said, just to take you down.
Well, I know. And you know how he's doing? He's at 1%, and he probably won't even make the debate stage. No, Chris is he's sad. I mean, I watched him the other day.
Just so you know, bombs are not in the construction business.
He said, I built 47 miles of wall. I built over 500 miles of wall. And that's Homeland Security statements.
No. You added 47 miles. We already had the barrier. You just extended it.
I had the safest border
You had COVID.
in the history of our country.
And then you put in Title 42, which created recidivism at the highest rate we've ever had. Once Title 42 went away, notice how the number of people crossing the border dropped? Remember how Title 42 was supposed to end? And the border was going to become a nightmare. Nonstop, just a flood of people, hundreds of thousands every single day. Right? Remember? Remember that? Didn't happen. Now, if the policy, Title 42, was the cause of the spike, then the person who put the policy in either wanted the spike or was too stupid to know it would happen.
I built massive miles of wall and was going to put up another 200 miles.
Another 200 miles. Yeah, that's the pile of a couple extra stuff. And by the way, on private property, and had to do eminent domain. It would take them 2 weeks to just seize property from the American people.
Everything was built. They just had to erect it. Would have taken 3 weeks.
3 weeks. I beg your pardon. 3 weeks. A week longer than his health care plan that never fucking showed up. Let's see. For around things since Title 42. Decrease in border crossings hasn't slowed Republican criticism. Border agents have reported a drop in encounters as House Republicans start investigation into DHS Secretary over immigration. A reported decline in unauthorized border crossings in the months since pandemic-era asylum restrictions expired has done little to shield the Biden administration from Republican attacks over its border policies. That's because it's not based on reality, it's politics. Officials had warned that the end of the so-called Title 42 border policy on May 11 would usher in a spike in U.S. border crossings that would overwhelm government facilities. But statistics so far have shown the opposite. border agents encountered 70% fewer crossings in the 3 weeks following the end of Title 42 compared to the week before the policy expired, according to the Department of Homeland Security. And in May, border agents reported a 15% fewer migrants in the same month a year earlier, with most of the encounters coming from before the end of Title 42, according to data released Tuesday by Customs and Border Protection. Yeah, so Customs and Border Protection, not exactly an organization that is in the tank for Democrats, one would say. Can you think of an organization that Donald Trump claims as his own more than CBP? And I told you guys about this repeatedly. Title 42 jacked up the recidivism and took away the penalties for trying twice. If you were busted crossing, you got like one chance. And if you came back over, you couldn't be a citizen. You would lose any chance of doing it. You'd get immediately expelled in the future. Your asylum claims, if you had them later, would be thrown out. Anybody related to you would have troubles and that kind of stuff. And the end of Title 42 kicked everybody, back and made them go by the rules of Title 9 or Title 7. I'm forgetting the title now. But once that happened, all the people that crossed multiple times crossed once and applied for asylum, and if they failed, that's that.
The numbers should skyrocket downward.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happens. Border agents encountered 70% fewer crossings in the 3 weeks following the end of Title 42 compared to the week before the policy expired. In May, border agents reported 15% fewer migrants in the same month a year earlier, with most of those encounters, the ones that were the majority of them, happened before Title 42 ended. Just dumb.
Far beyond my statement about building a wall, I was way over. I mean, what we did was incredible. But between the wall and Mexico, when you say Mexico, I got Mexico. You know what? I got them to pay for 28,000 soldiers on our border. People. Also,
why weren't they on their southern border? Because apparently Mexicans aren't the ones that are crossing en masse, especially during fucking COVID when the 28,000 went up. And the other reason is, by the way, one of the reasons why Mexico put 28,000 soldiers on our fucking border and kept them there was because we had more cases in the United States of COVID than Mexico did. And those guys also kept people who were here illegally from going back to fucking Mexico to avoid it.
I said, Mexico did pay. They gave me free of charge 28,000 soldiers.
In a second term, will you shut down the border?
Yeah, I will close up the border except.
And Texas will die.
Except that people come in legally.
Yeah, I'll close it up except for letting people come in legally. So what do you mean close it down? What does that mean? Gun turrets? Moats full of hot oil? What? Alligators?
We need people to come in. We want people to come in. But
yes, I know. Mar-a-Lago just put out an order for a bunch of foreign workers. Where is this? Yeah. Yeah. Mar-a-Lago sought 380 foreign workers during time Trump had access to classified documents. This is after he was president. Staff at Mar-a-Lago posed with Donald Trump on Mother's Day 2006. Mar-a-Lago looked to employ 380 short-term foreign workers from 2017 to 2022 when Trump had access to classified documents. That's all right. Whatever. I mean, why wouldn't he? There's nobody in West Palm Beach there's not 380 people who need a job in Florida.
We don't want people coming in from mental institutions and from jails.
Why has it been so difficult to get an immigration policy agreed upon?
Because he doesn't want one, because all he wants to do is lock the border, and Texas won't let him because their entire economy is based on their trade with Mexico.
You have different viewpoints, you have different everything, but I didn't.
You have different viewpoints, different everything. God, easy, not so much math right out of the gate.
Care about immigration policy. I didn't want anyone to come in unless they came in legally.
But let me just circle back on the FBI. There's a conversation underway right now about a complete reform of the FBI.
Wait a minute. What are we jumping? All right, they must have cut him off. Why would you go back to talking about the FBI in the middle of this conversation? If this is one of his, what was the border is boring to Trump fans?
And the Department of Justice because of all of these reasons that you mentioned. Take a step back.
Let's take a step forward, and then take another step back, and then forward, and then back, and then we're cha-chaing.
How should the FBI be reformed? For example, the Republicans say, take the headquarters out of Washington, make the headquarters in Alabama. Good idea. And what else do you want to see in terms of a reform of these agencies?
So I had a plan.
Well, first of all, having the FBI headquarters in Alabama ultimately might be a good thing because that's where a lot of crime happens.
To take down the FBI building and build a brand new building in Washington, because I think that the FBI should be somewhat close to DOJ if they're all honest people. You know, I mean, they want to move.
By the way, he's not for this plan. He's like, this is his real estate thing where he's like, no, who the fuck? If I'm president and I don't want to go to Alabama, I pretend to like Alabama. I don't actually like, who the fuck wants to go to Alabama? That's what he's.
Move it to a different state. We're going to move it to Virginia, build this, thing. It was going to cost, I mean, if you talk about environmentalists, the traffic was massive, et cetera, et cetera. It's already massive.
Well, they want $3.5 billion. They want it to be bigger than the Pentagon.
They want it to be this.
Well, the Pentagon is the center of our military, but we have giant military bases all across the country. They have the FBI headquarters would be a singularly large building. And also the Pentagon was built a long fucking time ago. And God knows what it cost.
Monster building very far away. I like the idea of it being close to the Justice Department because they work together to me. And they had the land, they had everything. You could renovate the building or build a new building in that location. There'd be a little bit of turmoil during construction, but not a lot. And that was what I preferred. That's what I was going to do. And it would have cost a lot less money. But I liked the FBI being somewhat close to the Department of Justice. I think it was, and I will tell you, the FBI people felt that was good also.
So you don't agree, move it to Alabama with what the Republicans are saying?
I'll move anything to Alabama because I love Alabama. If Alabama wants.
Well, then move to Alabama your fucking self. Why don't you live in Alabama? You'll move anybody else to Alabama. I don't know.
I said I'm all for it. No, I love Alabama. Yeah. But
I love Alabama. I love the Alabama.
I think there's something to be said about the FBI and the Department of Justice or Injustice. Right now it's not Department, it's the Department of Injustice. I think they have to be, they work together. They could walk across the street.
Yeah, they want to all eat, they should be at the same coffee shop so that when you're shooting a series like Criminal Minds or something like that, it's easier to, when you're doing location scouting, it's...
So every time you have to need somebody in court or whatever you're doing, they have to ride an hour and a half or 2 hours in traffic from a place in Virginia that's very far away.
Should FISA be reviewed?
Well, no, FISA's corrupt. You look at what the FBI did with hundreds and hundreds of cases where they, I could tell you some of the names that everybody...
Yeah, tell us. Tell us some of the names that everybody...
hears about, but...
Yeah, you could tell us. We've heard about them, but you tell us. You know all these names. Tell us.
You look at hundreds of cases.
There's hundreds. He could clearly say 10. He could prattle off 3.
And violations. And I'm actually very surprised that the judges didn't get angry about it. You never hear anything about it. FISA was corrupt.
She doesn't know what you're talking about. Look at her face. She doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. She does not know what the fuck you mean. What do you mean judges upset? They're the ones that people are upset with the judges for... All right.
The whole system of FISA, the FISA courts, and that the chief judge is there, and even the chief judge, that they didn't...
What was that person's name again? The chief judge. I mean, not all of the judges. Obviously, you can't memorize all of them because there's like 3. But what's the chief judge's name again? I forget. What's that fella's name again?
Do something about it.
Yeah, do something about it, guy.
And they never really made a statement about it. They never...
How do you know? How would you know if they made a statement? Because what's their name? Who? Who never made a statement about it?
Never complained about it.
Who never complained about it?
And yet the FBI was caught on many, many occasions Look at my thing. They signed fake documents having to do with Russia, Russia, Russia.
No, they didn't. One person removed a factor about Carter Page that they thought would end the FISA warrant for you, to help you. The one person busted for fucking around with FISA and the warrant on Carter Page was trying to help Trump. He was trying to lower the chances they would continue the FISA warrant on Carter Page and allow Carter Page to, like, continue criming on your behalf.
Russia, Russia, Russia was a total scam.
Blah, 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 blah.
I don't read, obviously.
I had to beat off.
I was a private business people.
Mm-hmm.
Free health care for illegal. Look, we're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges.
Good God. I swear to God, he has no idea who these people are. Nobody. Doesn't know. Like, he knows Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. He knows Adam Schiff. He knows people like that. He has no fucking idea. He doesn't know half the names of the people in his goddamn cabinet. And he sure as hell doesn't know who the FISA judges are. And it was the most significant court during his presidency. He was at war with them all the time, and he doesn't even know their fucking name? Are you kidding me? Imagine going through a 5-year custody battle and not knowing the name of the judge or your significant other's attorney or any of the witnesses. Imagine that. Imagine if at the end of the OJ trial, OJ started talking about the prosecution and couldn't think of anybody, couldn't name the judge, couldn't name the prosecution. Yeah, it's stunning. Is he talking about Pfizer? The Pfizer courts are terrible. They want to, you come in there, they give you a booster, you need another lawyer to get boosted again. It's so hard. All right, one more thing. I'm so over time tonight, but I got it kind of. I don't know if we'll be able to do. We can't do all of this. We can't. We don't like because they're all the same length of time. But I just want to dump in and see a part of this because it's fucking ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, Marge Trader Green. She did not get flame pots. She just got lights and smoke. And by the way, they started counting her 15 minutes before she ever started talking. She's wasting her time wandering. She is in no hurry. There's like, what?
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
morning, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Wait a minute. This was in the morning on a Sunday? I hope everyone went to church first. I'm getting the feeling they didn't.
Thank you. I love you too. Thank you. Well, some of you might have seen that I was on 60 Minutes. It's not a show that I usually watch, but I was on there. And one of the things that Leslie Stahl could not understand was why I called the Democrat Party the party of pedophiles.
Yeah, especially considering the huge number of Trump campaign officials busted for child pornography. Campaign. Remember this guy? Hold on one second. An informal advisor to Donald Trump's 2016 campaign who testified in the Mueller probe pleaded guilty Monday to charges of child sex trafficking and possessing child pornography. Remember that dude? Yeah, George Nader, everybody. How about, let's see. Let's see. Adam Hagman, 25. A Trump Commerce Department official has been jailed since November on federal charges of receiving and possession of child pornography. Is accused of sharing child porn and video commenting several times on sexually abusing children. Is captured in graphic messages in the online chat. According to this, at the time, a federal employee, Hagman had been posting a chat according to a pretrial detention memo. Prosecutor charged that he was an active participant, often soliciting these things. Let's see if Hagman was taken. Homeland Security agents executed a warrant at his Washington home on November 12th. According to a complaint, at which point Hagman stated that he had been saving it on his and provided officers with a password to access the content on his phone. He also told authorities he downloaded it as recently as the day before and admitted to using an unnamed app to access and download videos. The complaint says he was taken into custody the next day. His phone contained at least 33 videos that appeared to contain sexually explicit depictions of children, including prepubescent children. An attorney listed for Hagman declined to comment on the ongoing case. Let's see. Hagman is the most recent political operative arrested on federal charge. In February, authorities arrested and charged Ruben Verastegui, a former Senate Republican staffer, with similar offenses. Details in both men's arrest warrants suggest they were participants in the same group that investigators began looking at in June. That would be, I guess it's not a Democratic group. According to both Hagman and Verastegui's warrants, investigators discovered a group of at least 18 individuals who were trading child pornography on a particular website that remains unnamed in the complaints because they're still busting people on it. And this guy worked for Trump, and then this guy worked for Senate Republicans as a staffer. So let's see, what would be the other reason? Let's see. I need to check something real quick. There's got to. I'm sure there's a. Let's see. Ex-RNC staffer gets more than 12 years in prison in child porn case. That's the Vestigui guy. So he got the time. There you go. Seeing a Maryland delegate for Trump charged with. There you go. Maryland delegate for Trump charged with child pornography and possession of illegal gun and explosives. Child porn gun charges for Trump delegate. All right. Obviously, how many of you have been a presidential delegate? Like the level of dedication that you'd have to sign up for seems rather high, wouldn't you say? Let's see. Trump's Oklahoma campaign chair to plead guilty to child sex trafficking. Ralph Shorty is said to plead guilty to child sex trafficking for soliciting sex from a 17-year-old male. Let's see, what else? None of these drag queens, by the way. I would just like to, it's important to point out, if I might. Let's see. Former Trump, there's Vestigui again. See, yeah, there's George Nader. This is another one. This would be the. Oops, I got to move this page. Hold on a second. Natural places. The Groves. I'm looking at for person one. There we go. Capitol Police. Yeah, here you go. This guy's probably one of the worst, I would say. Former RNC aide sentenced to 12 years for requesting video of babies. Yeah. Former senior aide, I think this might be, Ruben Verastegui of Washington, D.C., former aide to the Republican National Committee, who called the sexual abuse of babies his absolute favorite. Yeah, he's the guy who said, seeing somebody sexually abuse a baby and kill it was his favorite, and he gets excited just thinking about it. And he was not kidding. Let's see. Potential jump ahead of this. So, anyways, please continue.
Yeah. So I've written a little explanation to help explain for those that can't see it and don't understand.
What don't I understand? What am I missing? What don't I understand?
Why I say the Democrat Party is the party of pedophiles.
Yeah, I would like, just for the record, Trump did not turn him in. Just saying. This guy got busted because the Mueller investigation arrested him for trying to fuck off, and there was let's see. Yeah, so they were looking into Nader because of the Mueller investigation. So can we just say for the record, let me go on the record. Let me fit this in here. Okay. Explicit videos depicting the sexual abuse of toddlers were discovered on George Nader's phone, a advisor to Trump during his transition, his campaign. In January 2018, 2 years after it, he'd been working and interacting with the Trump crowd this entire time. But Trump knows all the best people, and he knows everybody, and he knows everything about everybody, and he knows more about the monsters than the monsters do themselves. When FBI agents examined the devices as part of their probe into Russian election meddling. So, for the record, say what you will about the Mueller investigation, Marge, but it caught a pedophile that was working with Trump.
But I've done it in a little bit of a style that many of you in the room will recognize, and it's going to be sort of like a tribute to Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh, God. What? You know you're a pedophile when? Sort of a tribute. You mean a bastardization?
You might be a pedophile.
Fuck you. All right, I'm done. That's... Jesus Christ. Just okay. The flippant nature by which she goes after this and just kind of attributes it to a giant party of human beings, Democrats in general, not individuals who do this, not, pedophiles as a group, but a group as pedophiles. And so literally just kind of shrugging it off and thinking it's cute. Look at the look on her face. This is like, I have this adorable pedophile bit. By the way, she backed a guy for House Speaker who has voted and courted the votes of Democrats, has voted with and has courted the votes of Democrats. So what does that make Kevin McCarthy? Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the linchpins in Kevin McCarthy becoming the Speaker of the House. So if Kevin McCarthy reaches agreements with Democrats to pass bills, and Marjorie Taylor Greene supported Kevin McCarthy for his bid to be Speaker to do that very thing, and Democrats are pedophiles, then what's her job now? Oh, yeah, we can get into Roy Moore and Dennis Hastert and Mark Foley. Remember Mark Foley? Remember that guy? Hold on. Yeah, here we go. Whatever happened to Mark Foley? Foley resigned from Congress on September 29, 2006, acting on a request by the Republican leadership after allegations surfaced that he had sent suggestive emails and sexually explicit instant messages to teenage boys who had formerly served and were at the time serving as congressional pages. That's, if you'll recall, let me show you. This is the most fucked up part of it, too, is Republicans put Mark Foley on the Committee for Missing and Exploited Children. And this is him with John Walsh from America's Most Wanted, whose son Adam Walsh was killed by a pedophile, decapitated. And this guy arranged for himself to be on a committee dealing with missing and exploited children as effectively cover so that he could do it. That's Mark Foley, Republican House representative from 1994 to 2006. This picture is from 2005. Never mind. How about Jim Jordan? Let's see, while we're getting dark in this business. So this is Ohio State wrestler says Rep. Jim Jordan asked him to deny abuse allegations. Ohio representative, former Ohio State University wrestling coach Jim Jordan aided and abetted in the university's cover-up of sexual abuse within the program, a former team captain said in front of Ohio State legislators on Wednesday. Jim Jordan called me crying, groveling, begging me to go against my brother, begging me, crying for a half an hour, DeSabato said Wednesday. That's the kind of cover-up that's going on here. Adam DeSabato, captain of the team during the early 1990s, told members of the Ohio House Civil Justice Committee that Jordan and other officials ignored former Ohio State doctor Richard Strauss's sexual abuse of wrestlers from 1979 to 1997. DeSabato said that Jordan and other team officials knew about open shower facilities that facilitated sexual harassment and abuse of team wrestlers. Jordan has previously denied the allegation. Wednesday's testimony is a part of a hearing on legislation that would permit survivors of Strauss's abuse to sue the university for damages. Currently, the statute of limitations disallows them from doing so. A university study found that Strauss abused at least 177 people during his tenure as the wrestling team's doctor. Strauss was never charged and died by suicide in 2005. That picture I showed you of Mark Foley, 2005. The year Mark Foley was serving on the Committee for Missing and Exploited Children. Former Rep. Mark Foley was first elected to the House of Representatives in 94. In his May 2005 file video, Foley, writes, stands behind John Walsh, host of TV's America's Most Wanted, at a press conference announcing plans to overhaul sex offender laws. He wanted to be there when they marked it up. Now, I think the last one, Hastert, is I think one of the gnarliest ones. He was the longest serving House Speaker ever. Does he still hold that? Yeah, I think so. Yorkville, Illinois. Here we go. There. Move this over here and shrink this down for you. Former U.S. House Speaker Denny Hastert and a man who accused him of child sexual abuse reached a tentative out-of-court settlement on Wednesday over Hastert's refusal to pay the man $1.8 million, the outstanding balance in hush money that the Illinois Republican agreed to pay the man in 2010. Lawyers would not release details of the settlement. Arrived at just before the days of the civil trial. In the case that was set to start, it would have focused on a novel legal issue about whether Hastert's verbal agreement to pay $3.5 million to buy the silence of a man he abused as a teenager amounted to a legally binding contract. The irony that Hastert told this guy when he was underage that he would pay him $3.5 million to shut up, and the way he was trying to get out of it was the guy wasn't old enough to sign a contract. The man has been referred to only as James Doe in court papers since the breach of contract lawsuit was filed in 2016. The hush money deal would eventually lead to a federal criminal case against Hastert 5 years later and to public disgrace for the GOP stalwart, who for 8 years as House Speaker was second in line to the succession of the presidency. In the federal case, prosecutors said Hastert sexually abused at least 4 male students between the ages of 14 and 17 throughout his years at Yorkville High School. Hastert was in his 20s and 30s. Federal prosecutors said during criminal proceedings that the hush money deal was voluntarily entered into and that the victim never sought to blackmail Hastert that he go to public with the abuse. The abuse happened when the victim was a high school wrestler. And the now 79-year-old Hastert was his coach. Hastert paid $1.7 million over 4 years, but stopped the payments after the FBI questioned him in 2014 about illegally concealing huge cash withdrawals from his bank. I can't pay you right now. The FBI's wondering where all the money's going. After Hastert pleaded guilty to a banking charge and was sentenced to over a year in prison. Whoops. In 2016, he couldn't be charged with sexual abuse because the statute of limitations had run out. After Hastert's sentencing, the victim sued for breach of contract to force Hastert to pay the outstanding $1.8 million. Kendall County Judge Robert Pilmer announced that the trial was off on Wednesday afternoon during a hearing scheduled to discuss the logistics of jury selection, which was supposed to begin Monday. Now, obviously, the selection of jury, I don't know what you pay to lawyers to try and beat something like that, but it's probably in the millions of dollars or the hundreds of thousands at least. And good Lord, after sitting and let's say I don't want to pay this guy. Fuck him. I'd rather sit in front of a jury and let him tell people what I did. Good Lord. Asked for the resolution of civil cases, a code over a long, arduous journey for the client. It's never over for a victim of childhood sexual abuse. It impacts them for the rest of their lives. I agree. That's why it should be a capital offense, even though I don't believe in the death penalty. I think they should go away forever. The questions raised during 4 years since the suit was filed. Let's see. I don't know if there were other people going after him at the same time. So, for the record, Marge, it's gross. It's nothing to be flippant about, and your party's history with it is some of the worst ever. This and somebody was just saying, Al, do Jim Nolan. That's this guy. Hold on one second. Former judge Tim Nolan sentenced to 20 years. You made me lose hope, one victim told him. The graphic details of ex-judge Tim Nolan's crimes unfolded as letters from his victims were read. The Tari letter said, sat in a gray suit and leg shackles, or whatever. Former school board member and longtime Republican activist. Nolan sat silently as prosecutors read the anguished words of women he coerced into having sex. I was forced to stay in his apartment in Alexandria and was told if I ever left, he would call the police and I would go back to jail because I was on the run. I ended up turning myself in because jail was better than one more second spent with Tim Nolan. Nolan, 72, will serve 20 years in prison for human trafficking and must register as a sex offender for life if he gets out at 92. A judge decided on Friday he'll be eligible for parole in 4 years. It was all part of a plea agreement Nolan agreed to in February before he tried to back out of the deal a month later. Judge Kelly Lapp wouldn't allow Nolan to back out on Friday. The threats and abuse end today. Tim Nolan knew vulnerability when he saw it. Nolan's brash style made him one of the more visible campaigners for President Trump in northern Kentucky. Though since his arrest, many in the campaign publicly question his claim of heading the campaign in Campbell County. This has been one of the oddest cases I've ever seen, Lapp told the courtroom as she started the sentencing on Friday. You what now? Should we do just go hashtag not a drag queen on Twitter and see the rest of these assholes? See all their Trump gear in the background? Let me explain something to folks. This kind of behavior has no political affiliation. But when one party pretends that the other does it more than the other, more than they do themselves, and uses it as cover or brandishes it as a weapon, instead of saying both groups, all groups, should expunge people like this for the long haul, forever and ever and ever. And then, especially in the case of Marge, making it sort of too cute by half. What she's saying is that that it's only bad when it's Democrats, which maybe explains why there seems to be such a broad, cultivated, actual culture of pedophilia in the Republican Party structure. RNC staffers, campaigners for Donald Trump, busted multiple ones of these guys busted for child sex trafficking, child abuse, child pornography. And and again, in case it needs to be said, to clarify, anybody engaged in this kind of shit, go straight to jail and fucking stay there. I don't want this idea that anybody with multiple rape victims, even if they're adults, gets out of jail is insanity. If they're children, forget it. Goodbye. The long haul. I don't care. And this keeps coming up every time Epstein's client list shows up. As you know, the multiple copied fake picture of the list that shows up online every so often. And everybody's like, look who's out there. Look, if they actually hung out with him and did those things, I don't care if I thought they were correct about anything in the past. Goodbye. I'm done. Now, that doesn't matter. I can like the ideas that somebody was pretending to espouse, but that doesn't mean that their lack of honesty about espousing those ideas is a reflection on the ideas themselves. And I don't put that, my faith wasn't in that person or that human being if they were a liar and wearing some sort of horrifyingly thin mask. That said, making a bunch of like cute, you're a pedophile if jokes when your own party are... okay. Let me put the final pin in this. Two things. We put this right side by side. Okay. Because you can, beyond Trump partying with Epstein, you guys have seen those pictures. And so some people can say, well, that was a long time ago, and I didn't really, hang around with somebody like that, and how can you say that? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is a picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene with Nick Fuentes at the America First PAC conference, which he founded, and she spoke there. And he led the crowd in chants for Vladimir Putin, and she was there, and she spoke, and they hung out, and there's a bunch of pictures of them hanging out. Okay? We're clear? Good, right? Okay, but this is not second tier. This didn't happen 5-10 years ago before she knew what he was about, blah, blah, blah. Right? She's sitting there making, you're a pedophile if jokes. Okay. Cut to, when was this? This is, what's the date on this? This is February 2022. Is when he did this. And they've hung out. And Trump, by the way, had lunch with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West. This is this week. Fuentes talks on tape about his ideal wife's age. Plus, military advisor Mark Alasko explains why the U.S. decision is... Okay, this is from a podcast that they did. Nick Fuentes knows the ideal age he'd like for his future wife to be, and it's 16 years old. He says this in a recording. In a video clip tweeted out by the account Right Wing Watch and played on the show for Andy and Danielle, Fuentes says on the show, on a show called As Fuck, AF, that when he turns 30, he'd like to find a wife who is 16. If I'm 30 and she's 16, 14-year age difference. When I'm 50, she'll be 36. When I'm 40, she'll be 26. Then now we're talking here. Now we're cooking with gas, he says in a longer rant. He also says women don't age like wine, they age like milk. How is he not in jail, said Danielle. Right. The reaction to it is because you can't jail somebody for just saying something. But the truth is he's telling you who he is. So this woman, that's Nick Fuentes, who says his ideal wife is 16 years old. And that's Marjorie Taylor Greene at his conference last year. And that's updated July 16th, 2023. Just to clarify, just to I mean, if you're not going to have two standards, why have any standard at all? Yeah, why are white fetching? He's an incel. He doesn't have an idea why. Well, that's the other thing. It's again, this is to some degree him just being a shitlord, an online shitlord. That doesn't quite matter. Yes, 16-year-olds are children. Agreed. And again, that's disgusting on its own. But the irony that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who hung out with that dude, and that dude had lunch with Kanye and Trump at Mar-a-Lago on the grounds, was not vetted ahead of time. Wait a minute, isn't that the guy who praised Vladimir Putin? I can't even have that guy in there. Little did he know, a couple weeks later, he'd go, I want to marry a 16-year-old when I'm 30. How about Republicans wanting the age for girls to marry to be 16? Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Dave Foley, yeah, Mark Foley is the bad guy. Dave Foley is from Kids in the Hall. Don't confuse the two. Dave Foley's lovely. 16 is too young. It should be 18, 19. Yes, I agree. So the point is that it's all a farce. That methinks the skank doth protest too much. Doth detest too much. So, ew. On that note, I have to go wash my whole self. I need to go, soak myself in a tub. And I adore you guys. Thanks for helping me get through this. I wouldn't be able to do it without you. Good Lord, he's gross. And at some point, I guess, yes, it is ongoing. I agree. I think we all yes. Everybody go take a bath right now. I don't ask often, but I mean it when I say it. Yes, everybody go hose yourself down in a good way, because I adore you. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And remember in context who these people are. When people are like, I don't know, I think Joe Biden might be, I just don't like the whole, because I thought student loan forgiveness was you know what I'm saying? And you're talking to them and you're going, yeah, but what about the kidney? About that.
If your son lists you as Pedophilia in his contact list on his cell phone. You might be a pedophile if you think your student's reading list should include the book Genderqueer. You might be a pedophile if you have more LGBTQ, pride, and trans flags in your classroom than the American flag. Or why do you even have those flags in your classroom?
Foreign countries.
I agree. I'm a dope.
Who wants people coming in from foreign countries?
They're going to be a country. I actually think it will not be a country. It is sock and draw.
They don't like the gas.
The press wasn't that long ago.
Here I am like an idiot. When they gaze upon Semites, Yosemite.
Again,
sock drawer. They said, oh. When they gaze upon your Semites, I had a beat off. We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges. We have to slam them. Who wants people coming in from foreign countries?
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I think people saw that loud and clear.
We're going to be a country no more. I actually think it will not be a country no more. Outside, it's packed.
I don't want anything that's good. I don't want anything that's good.
Undersea Second Amendment.
I don't want anything that's good. People saw that loud and clear.
De-engineering.
I don't want anything that's good.
Dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
In his sock drawer. They said, ooh. The Burmese executives. So these Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
Somebody like that can make good.
Here I am like an idiot. You know, like again. Here I am like an idiot. Action replays in magnified fortune.
Winston Churchill stood on the rooftops in London, very calm, making speeches. Winston Churchill.
Even